What if I were to reveal to you that one of the most profound ancient texts of wisdom was intentionally excluded from the Bible? The Book of Enoch holds startling revelations concerning fallen angels, heavenly beings, and prophecies of such a controversial nature that religious leaders suppressed it for hundreds of years. Despite numerous efforts to erase it, this enigmatic manuscript has endured. Today, we're exploring its forbidden mysteries. Before we dive in, though, if content like this enriches your time or teaches you something meaningful, think about leaving a like and hitting subscribe. Your support really matters. Also, share with us your location and the current time where you are. Now, with no more delay, let's get started, shall we? The book they attempted to destroy. In the dusty Ethiopian highlands, as the 1700s were coming to an end, a discovery was about to transform our understanding of ancient history. A British traveller stood within the shadowy interior of an age-old monastery. His hands shook as a monk handed him what appeared to be an ancient pile of manuscripts. "This," the monk said quietly, "has been protected for countless generations." The traveller had no way of knowing then, but he held in his grasp a book concealed from the world for more than 1600 years. A text of such power that church authorities once commanded every copy to be burned. A narrative so extraordinary that many insisted it must never be read a second time. This was the Book of Enoch. For generations, it existed only as a name, a phantom tale murmured among academics. They understood it had once been real. They recognized it had influenced early religious thought. Yet the actual words had vanished, hidden away from eyes for reasons few could articulate. Why would a book inspire such fear? What mysteries did it contain that required concealment? The answers rest within its pages. Accounts of angels who abandoned heaven to wed mortal women. Chronicles of giant descendants who brought devastation to the ancient world. Revelations of celestial battles, concealed dimensions, and mysterious entities observing us from the cosmos. These weren't merely tales. For countless early adherents, this represented history, the authentic account of how our world descended from perfection. Enoch speaks to us of the Watchers, angels who fell from grace and instructed humanity in warfare, cosmetics, and sorcery. It describes their confinement in bonds of darkness. It provides blueprints of heaven's chambers and portrays God's chariot of flame. Little wonder it terrified those holding power. This wasn't simply a forbidden book. It was an alternate pathway, an unexplored road. It presented a cosmos more vast, more strange, and more vibrant than many were willing to acknowledge. Yet, something peculiar occurred. Even while being removed from sacred collections, fragments of Enoch's narrative continued to resonate in the books we recognize. His presence lingers across biblical pages. His angels materialize in artwork and visions. His admonitions about divine justice continue speaking to us in the present day. The chronicle of the Book of Enoch is the account of a concept that proved indestructible, of words that waited quietly until humanity was prepared to receive them once more. And now, following years shrouded in obscurity, Enoch speaks anew. Not as some dusty artifact, but as a breathing voice from the origins of faith. A book challenging us to gaze upward at the heavens and question what other parts of our own story remain unknown to us. The book they sought to eliminate has returned, and nothing will appear quite the same afterward. In the content ahead, we'll trace Enoch's journey. We'll encounter the angels who tumbled from grace. We'll confront the giants who formerly walked the earth. We'll glimpse behind the curtain concealing heaven's throne. And possibly, similar to the British explorer inside that shadowy monastery so many years past, we'll discover that certain banned books contain not wickedness, but truths we weren't quite ready to confront. So, what precisely is this concealed manuscript that rested in shadows for such an extended time? The Book of Enoch isn't a single narrative, but an entire universe of visions contained within weathered covers. It's a portal into convictions, once cherished by countless individuals who gazed upward at the identical stars we observe today. At its essence, the book professes to convey the words of Enoch, Noah's great-grandfather. In the Bible, he's identified by merely a handful of words. Enoch walked alongside God. Then he was gone, for God took him. This simple suggestion that a man ascended to heaven without experiencing death ignited flames of curiosity in early minds. The manuscript we currently possess was most likely recorded around 300 to 100 years prior to Christ. Its most ancient sections may echo stories transmitted through ages before ink met parchment. Composed primarily in Aramaic, it circulated through Jewish communities during an era when many searched for evidence of God's design in a world dominated by foreign rulers. What distinguishes the Book of Enoch is its construction. Like a dwelling with numerous chambers, it contains 5 principal sections, each possessing its distinct atmosphere and meaning. Initially comes the Book of the Watchers, the most recognized and referenced portion. Here we discover angels who deserted their stations in heaven, attracted by the beauty of mortal women. Their decision to transgress this boundary brings catastrophe not solely upon themselves, but upon all earthly life. This segment also conducts us on a journey through heaven's corridors, led by angels who reveal to Enoch the very throne of God. Following that, the Book of Parables discusses a forthcoming judge, a son of man, who will correct all injustices at the conclusion of time. Numerous scholars examining these words perceive early indications of concepts that would subsequently flourish in Christian theology. The astronomical book might appear tedious initially, a meticulous record of sun, moon, and stars in their courses, but examine more carefully and you'll find a celestial timepiece, a method to designate holy days and remain synchronized with heaven's own rhythm. Within the dream visions, Enoch shares peculiar dreams where human history unfolds as a story of creatures, sheep and wolves, eagles and oxen, each representing nations and rulers in our reality. Finally arrives the Epistle of Enoch, a letter of guidance intended to direct those living in the final days preceding judgment's arrival. Through all these segments flows a singular thread, the conviction that our world isn't merely what appears visible, that beyond the surface of ordinary existence, immense forces operate in patterns established by God, that human decisions resonate in heaven, and heaven's intention shapes earth in response. For the individuals who initially shared these accounts, the Book of Enoch wasn't fantasy. It was concealed history, secret understanding, transmitted from a man who had stood within God's own courts. It was a guide to comprehend why the world holds both magnificence and suffering. What renders this text so essential is how it completed gaps in the narratives many absorbed from childhood. Where the Bible speaks through hints regarding fallen angels, Enoch provides names and actions. Where prophets observe God's throne from a distance, Enoch claims to have stood directly before it. Where others caution about judgment, Enoch portrays the actual flames that will consume. This isn't simply an ancient book discovered in a distant territory. It's a missing fragment that transforms the entire picture, a lost chapter from faith's beginning that enables us to perceive with renewed eyes what once existed only as shadow, banned, concealed, and resurrected. How does a book once recognized throughout the ancient world simply disappear? The account of Enoch's descent from prominence is equally peculiar as the narratives within its pages. In the earliest days of faith, the Book of Enoch stood prominent among sacred manuscripts. Jewish teachers quoted from it. Early church leaders commended it. The author of the Book of Jude, found within the New Testament, even treats it as genuine prophecy, referencing Enoch specifically. Yet by the 4th century, a transformation had commenced. As church authorities labored to establish one unified set of teachings, manuscripts that didn't align with their perspective were pushed to the margins. Books recounting fantastical tales of angels and alternate realms raised difficult questions about belief. Bishop Athanasius of Alexandria, in the year 367, composed a catalogue of books he declared were the sole authentic holy texts. The Book of Enoch was absent from that list. Additional church councils adopted his approach, and shortly a division was established. Certain books were accepted, while others were excluded. But why was Enoch cast out? Some suggest its vivid accounts of fallen angels conflicted with emerging views regarding sin's origin. Others indicate its assertions about the character of God and heaven that didn't correspond with what church leaders instructed. A few propose it was perceived as too similar to other forbidden texts that genuinely did propagate false concepts. Whatever the reason, the consequence was evident. Scribes ceased producing new copies. Libraries permitted their existing ones to deteriorate. In time, the book that had once influenced how individuals perceived the stars diminished in memory, yet not everyone abandoned it. In one region of the world, distant from the influence of those who prohibited such works, Enoch persisted. In the elevated hills of Ethiopia, where an ancient expression of Christianity established itself, the book was still regarded as holy truth. There, in a territory of ancient faith and even older mountains, Enoch's words were still reproduced by hand, page after page, century following century. Time advanced, empires emerged and collapsed, and the world forgot what it had sacrificed. Then arrived a moment that would alter the trajectory of hidden history. In the late 1700s, a Scottish explorer named James Bruce journeyed through Ethiopia, searching for the Nile River's source. While there, he discovered something equally valuable: 3 copies of the lost Book of Enoch, still read and valued by Ethiopian monks. Bruce transported 1 copy back to Europe. Initially, few gave it significant attention. It was written in Ge'ez, an ancient language few could interpret, but words circulated gradually through academic institutions. This wasn't merely some unusual discovery. It was a book many had assumed vanished permanently. In 1821, Richard Lawrence, a professor at Oxford, produced the first complete translation into English. Suddenly, following more than 1,000 years of silence, Enoch spoke once again to the Western world. What emerged was a gradual but steady resurrection from oblivion. Additional copies were located, superior translations were created. Scholars began recognizing how profoundly this ancient book had influenced the faith of those who preceded us. Then, in the mid-1900s, among the Dead Sea Scrolls, fragments of the most ancient known copies of Enoch were uncovered. Written in Aramaic, they verified that this wasn't merely some recent work, but genuinely an ancient manuscript treasured by Jewish communities prior to Christ's era. Now, in our present time, the Book of Enoch has discovered renewed vitality, not as scripture recited from pulpits, but as a window into forgotten methods of perceiving heaven and earth. Its angels and revelations now populate films, literature, and artwork. Its cautions about cosmic forces resonate in how many still view the interaction of good and evil in our reality. The book they sought to destroy has risen once more, and those examining it now discover not some peculiar cult manuscript, but a missing chapter in the narrative of how humans have attempted to comprehend the stars shining overhead and the shadows dwelling within. Enoch, the individual patriarch, prophet, legend. Before we journey through the extraordinary pages of his book, we must first meet the man whose identity it carries. Who was Enoch, and why was he regarded as someone who could relate such cosmic accounts? In the book of Genesis, Enoch appears like a whisper, merely a handful of lines within a list of names. He was the 7th descendant from Adam, the father of Methuselah, who would survive longer than any other human recorded in the Bible. But what distinguishes Enoch are the words describing his conclusion. Enoch walked alongside God. Then he was gone, for God took him. Unlike others in his genealogy, Enoch never experienced death. He simply departed, taken by God while still breathing. This simple hint opened doors of amazement in the minds of those who came afterward. What did it signify to walk with God? Where was Enoch transported? And above all, what did he witness in that other dimension? In time, Enoch evolved from a name on a list to a figure of legend and authority. Jewish authors, in the centuries preceding Christ, regarded him as the first man to record holy words. Some declared he was the first to teach humans how to calculate and measure the heavens. Others maintained he possessed the secret names of God. The Book of Jubilees, another ancient manuscript, informs us that angels instructed Enoch in the mysteries of time, weather, and the courses of stars. It asserts he was the first to compose books of wisdom for all who would follow. In this perspective, Enoch wasn't simply a righteous man. He was the first prophet, the first scribe, the first to chart the heavens. This understanding of Enoch as guardian of cosmic mysteries intensified with time. By the 1st century, numerous Jewish and early Christian authors regarded him as a man who had stood within God's throne room and returned to testify about it. Some even suggested he had been transformed into an angel himself, the mighty Metatron, scribe of heaven. In Christian communities, Enoch was frequently paired with Elijah, another man transported to heaven without dying. Some taught that both would return in the final days to confront the forces of darkness. Others perceived Enoch as evidence that humans could, through holy living, transcend their earthly nature. But Enoch's influence extends beyond merely Jewish and Christian tradition. In Islamic teaching, he appears as Idris, a prophet recognized for his wisdom and patience. Muslim manuscripts state he was the first to employ the pen and to study the heavens. Some tales describe how he was elevated to heaven following death, to be restored to life in God's presence. Even in regions where the Book of Enoch was prohibited, the man himself persisted in art and narrative. Medieval mystery plays depicted him ascending to the stars. Renaissance artists positioned him among the clouds. His name was bestowed upon sons, hoping they too might walk closely with God. What connects all these perspectives of Enoch is a single thread. He is the man who crossed the boundary between earth and heaven and survived to tell about it. He is the one who witnessed what others merely speculated about. He is proof that the distance between human and divine could, in rare instances, be bridged. Perhaps this is why Enoch endures. In a world of firm boundaries between flesh and spirit, life and death, human and divine, Enoch stands as the exception, the man who ventured beyond, the eyes that witnessed what was not intended for human sight. And in his narrative, many discover hope that they too might someday perceive beyond the veil. That death is not the sole door to what exists beyond. That heaven might, in special circumstances, reach downward and elevate those it selects to walk its halls while still in flesh. As we turn now to the book bearing his name, we must remember this. Whatever hands may have inscribed these words throughout the years, they claim to share what Enoch witnessed. They ask us to look through the eyes of a man who, for reasons understood only to God, was permitted to observe the gears turning our world, the flames illuminating the stars, and the throne at the center of everything, the descent of the Watchers. Now we step into the heart of the Book of Enoch, the account of the Watchers. This narrative forms the foundation of what made this text both cherished and dreaded. It tells of an era when the boundary between heaven and earth grew fragile, and beings of light made a decision that would cast shadows across all of time. The account begins with beings called the Watchers, angels, assigned with observing the early world. 200 of these mighty spirits stood at their positions in the heavens, looking down at the young earth and its inhabitants. Their assignment was to watch, to protect, to maintain the separation between the ways of heaven and earth. But as they gazed down at the expanding tribes of humans, something awakened in these angels that had never been meant to stir. They observed the daughters of men and found them attractive. Led by their commander Samyaza, these watchers made a pact. They would abandon their positions. They would assume flesh. They would descend to earth and take human women as spouses. But such a decision came with dread, even for angels. Samyaza worried he would shoulder the blame alone if their plan brought God's fury. "Let us all swear an oath," Samyaza declared to his fellow angels. "Let us bind ourselves by a curse not to abandon this plan, but to execute this deed." And so, on the summit of Mount Hermon, 200 angels swore a dark oath to pursue their desires, regardless of the cost. They descended to earth in the days of Jared, Enoch's father. Each selected a woman for himself. Each claimed her as wife. From these unusual unions came children, but not human children. They were the Nephilim, giants whose stature and appetite knew no limits. But the Watchers did more than father monstrous sons. They began instructing humans in things that heaven had kept concealed. Azazel taught men how to forge weapons of war, swords and knives, shields and armor. He revealed to them how to manipulate metals and fashion jewels. Samyaza taught enchantments and how to harvest roots for sorcery. Armoros taught how to reverse spells. Barakel gave understanding of stars. Kokabel revealed the signs of heaven. Others taught the signs of earth, the path of the moon, and the method to paint eyes with pigments. Each angel shared some hidden knowledge, crafts that humans were not yet meant to possess. These gifts might appear beneficial at first examination. What danger in learning how to work metal or track the moon? But the Book of Enoch presents these as seeds of destruction. The weapons led to violence. The jewels fostered pride. The magic turned hearts from trust in God to trust in incantations. It wasn't merely that the Watchers had violated a boundary. They had brought with them fire from heaven that scorched all it contacted. They had granted power without wisdom, knowledge without love. Soon the world suffered under the burden of new transgressions. The giants, born of angels and women, consumed all they could discover, plants, animals, and then humans themselves. They drank blood and turned upon each other in hunger. The crafts taught by the Watchers were employed for war, for greed, for pride. The first murder, Cain killing Abel, now spreads to warfare between tribes. The first lie expands to systems of deception. The world slides toward chaos, all from one decision made by those who were meant to watch, not interfere. In heaven, other angels observed what was occurring. The archangels, Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel, looked down at earth and heard the cries of those injured by the Watchers' decision. They brought these cries before God, saying, "See what Azazel has accomplished, how he has taught every manner of sin on the earth, and disclosed the eternal secrets which were preserved in heaven." This first portion of Enoch's account ends with heaven's gaze returning to earth, not in love now, but in judgment. The Watchers had sown wind. Now they and the entire world with them would reap the storm. In this ancient narrative resonates a warning still experienced today, that certain boundaries are not meant to be violated, that heaven and earth, when combined without God's blessing, bring not glory but devastation, that knowledge without love, power without wisdom, passion without restraints, these birth monsters, not joy. Yet in this dark account also conceals a strange comfort. Even when angels fall, God does not forsake earth. Even when the Watchers fail their assignment, new messengers are dispatched. The world may fracture, but it is never forgotten by the one who created it. The Nephilim, giants of antiquity. The world was young when they walked the earth. Massive beings, half human and half divine, casting long shadows across the ancient hills. The Nephilim. Their narrative begins with a forbidden love, angels attracted to the beauty of human women. These weren't gentle giants from children's stories. The Book of Enoch informs us they stood 300 cubits tall, that's nearly 500 feet, while likely an echo of ancient storytelling, even scaled down, they would tower over any normal person. Think of looking upward at a being 3 times your height with strength to correspond. The name Nephilim itself derives from the Hebrew word signifying the fallen ones, or those who cause others to fall. And fall they did. These weren't heroes. They were monsters. Enoch's account is direct. They began to transgress against birds, beasts, reptiles, fish, and to consume one another's flesh and drink the blood. A world of peaceful creatures suddenly faced predators unlike anything they'd encountered before. The hunger of the Nephilim knew no boundaries. When animals and plants couldn't satisfy them, they turned on humans. Enoch describes how they consumed mankind and began to transgress against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish, and to consume one another's flesh and drink the blood. Their appetite wasn't solely for food. These giants devoured resources at a terrifying pace. Imagine entire forests cleared, rivers depleted, herds of animals hunted to extinction, all to feed beings who were never satisfied. This narrative isn't unique to Enoch. Genesis 6 mentions them briefly. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. They were the heroes of old, men of renown. But where the Bible gives us a single verse, Enoch provides us the complete dark account. Stories of giants appear in cultures worldwide. Greek myths tell of the titans who battled against the gods. Norse legends speak of Jotnar, mountain-sized beings of great power. Native American tribes share accounts of giant cannibals who hunted humans. Are these all memories of the same events? Ancient people attempting to make sense of fossil discoveries, or something else entirely? The Nephilim left more than stories. Some indicate massive ancient structures, stoneworks that seem beyond human capability to transport. Others note giant-sized weapons and armor described in ancient manuscripts. The Bible itself mentions the bed of Og, king of Bashan, constructed of iron and over 13 feet long. Their violence expanded until it touched every corner of creation, Enoch tells us. And the whole earth has been corrupted through the works that were taught by Azazel. To him ascribe all sin. The world suffered under their burden and their hunger. Heaven took notice. The cries of humanity reached the throne of God. The archangels, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel, looked down in horror at what earth had become. The giants represented more than physical threat. They were living proof of violated boundaries. Divine beings mixing with humans, creating something that should never have existed. In many ancient cultures, maintaining proper order was sacred. The Nephilim were chaos made flesh. Their narrative teaches us something powerful. Size and strength don't constitute true might in ways that matter. True might comes from goodness, from wisdom. The giants possessed power, but used it poorly. They selected cruelty over kindness. And for that, judgment was approaching. The legacy of the Nephilim lives on in our cultural memory. We still tell stories of giants, some friendly, most fearsome. Perhaps these tales echo our oldest fears that something larger and stronger might one day consume everything we cherish. When we examine Enoch's account, we perceive a warning about power without wisdom, hunger without restraint. The Nephilim were doomed, not because they were giants, but because their hearts were small. The corruption of humanity. Before the Watchers arrived, humans lived simply. They planted seeds, tended animals, constructed shelters, and raised families. Life was difficult but honest. The rhythms of nature guided their days. Then everything transformed. The Book of Enoch explains how the fallen angels didn't simply take wives. They became instructors. What they taught wasn't wisdom. It was knowledge humanity wasn't prepared for. Azazel taught men to forge weapons of war, swords, knives, shields, and armor. Before this, conflicts were simpler. Now death could arrive swiftly from a distance with cruel intention. And there arose much godlessness, and they committed fornication, and they were led astray, and became corrupt in all their ways. Shemihaza taught spellbinding and root-cutting, early witchcraft. Armoros taught how to break spells. Barakel taught astrology. Kokabel revealed the signs of the stars. Ezekiel taught knowledge of clouds and weather patterns. Arakiel showed signs of the earth. Shamsiel taught the signs of the sun, and Sariel the course of the moon. Each piece of knowledge shifted humanity further from innocence. Women learned to adorn themselves with precious metals and stones, to paint their faces and alter their appearance. Enoch describes how they adorned themselves with beautiful bracelets and chains and rings and colorings of eyes and the fairest of stones and all kinds of dyes. This wasn't simple vanity. It was a fundamental shift in human focus, from the inner life to outer show, from substance to surface. Before long, humans began to imitate the violence of their giant neighbors. They turned new weapons against animals, then against each other. Blood watered the ground. Families fought families. Tribes attacked tribes. The knowledge brought by the Watchers wasn't just about things. It changed how people thought. Humans began to see nature not as something to live within, but something to control. Animals became targets, not fellow creatures. Other humans became rivals, not kin. The text tells us, "And men perished. They cried, and their voice reached to heaven. The corruption spread like a sickness. Few remained untouched by it. Some knowledge came with immediate harm. Weapons brought swift death. Other knowledge carried slow poison. Astrology led people to fear the stars rather than simply enjoy their beauty. Plant, law, and medicine sometimes healed, but also created new dependencies. Perhaps most dangerous was the knowledge of metals. Humans learned to dig into the earth, to melt stone until it flowed like water, to reshape the world itself. This knowledge would echo through all human history that followed. The angels had broken heaven's trust. Knowledge meant for gradual discovery over thousands of years was dumped into human minds all at once. Like giving fire to an infant, the results were both wonderful and terrible. Enoch doesn't condemn knowledge itself. What it condemns is knowledge without wisdom, learning without love. The Watchers taught humans how to do things without teaching why or whether they should be done. As corruption spread, the natural world suffered too. Animals grew more aggressive, plants withered, even the weather patterns changed. All creation groaned under the weight of disorder. This wasn't just a physical corruption, but a spiritual one. Humans began to worship the Watchers as gods. They forgot the true creator who had set the stars in motion. They traded truth for power, wisdom for cleverness. Heaven watched as the beautiful garden of earth became a battlefield. The experiment of freedom had led to chaos. Divine patience, though vast, was not endless. The lesson echoes through time. Knowledge without wisdom destroys. Power without goodness corrupts. Progress without purpose leads nowhere worth going. As humans today unlock the atom, gene, and mind, Enoch's warning still whispers to us. Not all that can be known should be known. At least, not before we're ready to bear its weight. Enoch's summons. In a world drowning in chaos, one man walked a different path. The book of Genesis tells us simply, Enoch walked with God. 300 years of daily choice, choosing peace over violence, wisdom over clever tricks, kindness over power. Enoch was no king or warrior. The texts describe him as a scribe, a keeper of records, a man of letters and numbers. In a world turning toward weapons, he held only a pen. Picture a quiet man with weathered hands and thoughtful eyes. While others fought for land or gold, Enoch watched the stars, noted the seasons, and taught his children to listen more than speak. His life wasn't perfect. He faced the same world as everyone else. A world where giants stalked the hills and violence filled the valleys. Yet something set him apart. Where others saw only threats, he saw patterns. Where they heard noise, he heard music. One night, as he slept, everything changed. The ancient text tells us, "And it came to pass, when the sons of men had increased, that in those days there were born to them fair and beautiful daughters, and the angels, the sons of heaven, saw them and desired them." Enoch wasn't chosen for his strength or royal blood. He was chosen because he still remembered how to listen. The summons came without warning, not a thunderous call from heaven, but a quieter thing, a dream, a visitation, a knowing. Two men appeared to me, very tall, such as I have never seen on earth. Their faces shone like the sun. Their eyes were like burning lamps. Fire came from their lips. Their dress had the appearance of feathers. Their feet were purple. Their wings brighter than gold. These weren't the fallen watchers, but true angels, still loyal to heaven's throne. They spoke with voices like rushing water. "Fear not, Enoch, righteous man and scribe of righteousness. Come with us and tell the watchers of heaven, who have abandoned the high heaven, that they shall never find peace." Imagine the weight of such a task. Enoch, a human called to deliver judgment to beings of light and power. It would be like a child telling giants they've been bad. Yet Enoch agreed. The text says simply, "And I went and sat down by the waters of Dan in the land of Dan, which is south of Hermon to the west. I read their petition until I fell asleep. When he woke, everything looked the same hills, the same sky. But Enoch was changed. He had become a bridge between worlds, a messenger walking between realms. His first task was to find the fallen watchers. They weren't hard to locate. Their impact on the world was everywhere. But approaching them required courage beyond measure. The Book of Enoch describes how he traveled to their dwelling place and found them all afraid, and fear and trembling seized them. Even in their fallen state, these were beings of tremendous power. Yet they recognized in Enoch something they had lost, connection to the divine. They begged him, "Intercede for us who have abandoned the high heaven." These beings who had once stood in God's presence now needed a human to speak for them. The roles had reversed. Those who came to rule now pleaded for mercy. Enoch listened to their confession. They admitted teaching forbidden things, taking human wives, creating the violent Nephilim. They knew their punishment was coming, but hoped for leniency. With these words heavy in his heart, Enoch prepared for an even greater journey, not across earth, but beyond it. He would be taken to heaven itself to deliver this message and receive God's answer. This was Enoch's turning point. From ordinary man to prophet, from observer to participant in cosmic drama, his summons reminds us that anyone, no matter how seemingly ordinary, may be called to extraordinary purpose. The quiet scribe would become the voice that connects heaven and earth. The man who walked with God would soon walk in God's own realm. Judgment of the fallen angels. The journey began in darkness. Enoch tells us, "And they took me to a place where there were things like flaming fire, and when they pleased, they appeared as men." The angels who guided him could shift between forms, sometimes appearing human, sometimes as pure energy. Enoch was carried beyond the world he knew, beyond mountains and seas, to realms few humans had glimpsed. "And they lifted me up into heaven, and I came to a wall built of crystals, surrounded by tongues of fire." He wasn't in a place that could be found on any map. He had entered the spiritual realm, where thoughts have form, and time flows differently than on earth. Before the throne of heaven, Enoch delivered the watcher's plea, but heaven already knew their crimes. The archangels had been watching. Every tear shed by humans had been counted. Every drop of blood spilled by the Nephilim had been witnessed. The judgment came not as angry shouts, but as quiet certainty. "Go say to the watchers of heaven who sent you to petition for them, you should petition for men, not men for you." The fallen angels had hoped Enoch would speak for them. Instead, he became the messenger of their doom. The verdict was clear. You have been in heaven, but all its secrets had not yet been revealed to you. You knew worthless ones, and in the hardness of your hearts you revealed these to women. And through these secrets, women and men work much evil on earth. Their punishment would fit their crime. They had broken boundaries, so boundaries would now hold them. They had corrupted the earth, so the earth would no longer welcome them. Bind Azazel hand and foot, and cast him into darkness. Make an opening in the desert, and cast him into it. Place upon him rough and sharp rocks, and cover him with darkness. Let him stay there forever, and cover his face so that he cannot see light. For beings made of light, darkness was the greatest fear. For spirits used to freedom, chains were the heaviest burden. For those who once stood in God's presence, separation was the deepest pain. Each watcher received his sentence. Some would be bound in valleys, others thrown into fiery pits. All would wait long ages for the final judgment day. The Book of Enoch describes their prison in vivid terms. I saw a deep pit with heavenly fire on its pillars. I saw inside them descending pillars of fire that were immeasurable in depth or height. This wasn't merely physical punishment. It was spiritual exile, the natural result of their choices. They had turned from light to darkness in their hearts. Now, their outer reality matched their inner choice. The judgment wasn't solely about punishing the guilty, it was about protecting the innocent. As long as the watchers roamed free, humanity would never find peace. What about their giant children? The Nephilim, too, would face justice. The spirits of the giants oppress, corrupt, attack, fight and break on the earth and cause sorrow. They eat no food and don't thirst and are not observed. These spirits will rise against the sons of men and against the women because they proceeded from them. But unlike their fathers, the Nephilim would eventually find rest. The giants are slaughtered, die, and are destroyed. The spirits will desert their bodies, and their flesh shall be destroyed. Even in judgment, there was mercy. The corruption would end. The world would be cleansed. A new beginning would come. Enoch watched this divine court with human eyes. He saw justice beyond human understanding, perfect in its balance of mercy and truth. The angels who remained faithful explained to Enoch, "As God lives, this judgment upon you has gone forth from God. The sentence from him cannot be resisted." Some modern readers find this judgment harsh, but Enoch's account shows us a cosmos of balance, where actions have consequences, where boundaries matter, where power brings responsibility. The watchers weren't punished for a single mistake. They had knowingly, repeatedly broken cosmic law. They had brought suffering to countless innocent beings. They had twisted the natural order until it nearly broke. Their judgment reminds us that in the oldest stories, justice always comes, even if it takes generations. No power, however great, stands above the moral law that holds the universe together. The cosmic jail. Deep beneath mountains unknown to human maps, beyond valleys no explorer has charted, lies a prison unlike any on earth. Its walls aren't stone, but reality itself. Its bars aren't metal, but divine decree. This is the cosmic jail described in the Book of Enoch, the holding place for heavenly beings who chose rebellion. Enoch's vision of this supernatural prison comes to us in vivid detail. And from there, I went to another place more terrible than this, and saw terrible things, a great fire there which burned and blazed, and the place had a cleft reaching to the abyss, full of great pillars of fire falling. Neither its extent nor size could I see, nor could I see its source. Unlike human jails built to reform or punish for a time, this cosmic prison was designed to contain. The Watchers, beings of immense power and knowledge, couldn't be held by ordinary means. Their jail had to exist partially outside time itself. The text describes multiple containment areas, each designed for specific offenders. For Azazel, who taught humans warfare and vanity, make an opening in the desert and cast him into it. Place upon him rough and sharp rocks and cover him with darkness. For Samyaza, who led the rebellion, bind them for 70 generations underneath the earth, until the day of judgment, and of their completion, until the eternal judgment is accomplished. These weren't metaphors, but spiritual realities. places where fallen angels would wait out the long ages until final judgment. Modern readers might wonder, where exactly is this prison? The Book of Enoch places it variously at the ends of the earth, in the west and beyond great mountains. These weren't directions on a map, but spiritual coordinates, places where the material and immaterial worlds overlap. The prisoners weren't only the 200 watchers. Their punishment included separation from their giant offspring. The Nephilim's bodies would die in the coming flood, but their spirits would remain trapped between worlds, neither fully alive nor fully dead. Enoch describes how these spirits will rise up against the children of the people and against the women because they have proceeded from them. These became what later traditions would call demons, bodiless entities seeking physical form. The cosmic jail had different levels and sections. Some areas burned with ceaseless fire, others were dark beyond imagining. Some prisoners were bound with heavy chains, while others were confined by barriers they couldn't even perceive. These weren't ordinary chains. Enoch describes them as made of immense weight. Some scholars suggest these weren't physical restraints, but bonds of divine energy, limiting the very essence of these spiritual beings. The prison guards weren't human, but angelic, loyal spirits assigned to watch the watchers. Chief among them was the archangel Raphael, whose name means God heals. His presence suggests the prison served a healing purpose for creation, containing the infection of rebellion. This cosmic jail appears in other ancient texts too. The New Testament's second letter of Peter mentions angels in chains of darkness, reserved for judgment. The book of Jude speaks of angels who did not keep their proper domain, but left their own abode. He has reserved in everlasting chains under darkness for the judgment of the great day. Are these just shared myths or glimpses of the same spiritual reality? The consistent details across cultures suggest these stories tap into something deeply embedded in human spiritual awareness. The prison term was set for 70 generations, a symbolic number representing a complete age. The watchers would remain confined until the end of the current world cycle. Only then would final judgment come. Unlike human prisons meant to reform, this cosmic jail existed simply to contain. Reform would come not through punishment, but through witnessing, watching, as the consequences of their actions played out across generations of human history. The most poignant aspect of this imprisonment was its contrast with their former freedom. These beings once soared between stars and stood in divine presence. Now they were confined, limited, bound, experiencing for the first time what it meant to be restricted. Their prison sentence carried a powerful message. Freedom without responsibility isn't freedom at all. It's chaos. True freedom comes with boundaries, with respect for natural laws and divine order. The cosmic jail reminds us that justice spans beyond human lifetimes. Some debts take ages to settle, some wounds require eons to heal. But in the spiritual economy described by Enoch, balance always returns. Disorder eventually gives way to order. Darkness ultimately yields to light. Michael, Raphael, Uriel, Gabriel. The archangels enter. The skies darken. Heaven stirs. The great archangels step forward. Long before they became fixtures in world religion, these celestial beings emerge in Enoch's account as cosmic enforcers. God's justice requires action. The watchers have crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. Michael, whose name means "who is like God," commander of the heavenly hosts. Raphael, God heals, medicine bearer of heaven. Uriel, light of God, keeper of wisdom and warning. Gabriel, strength of God, heaven's messenger of both doom and hope. Enoch tells us these four stand before the throne. They watch the corruption below with growing alarm. Human cries reach heaven day and night. The whole earth is filled with blood and wickedness. The text says, "The giants devour all mankind can produce." They consume birds, beasts, reptiles. When food runs short, they turn on humans. When humans aren't enough, They begin to eat each other. God speaks. His voice rolls like thunder through the heavenly court. Go to Noah, son of Lamech, commands the Ancient of Days. Tell him what is coming. He alone will escape with his sons. Gabriel receives this task. He will warn the righteous man to build his ark. Raphael, bind Azazel, cast him into darkness. The healing angel must first remove the infection, throw upon him rough and jagged rocks, cover him with darkness. There he shall remain forever. Cover his face so he may not see light. This punishment comes first because Azazel taught humans violence through metalwork. He showed them how to make weapons. His knowledge unleashed bloodshed upon the world. On the day of judgment, Raphael, he will be cast into the fire. Next comes Uriel's task. The angel of wisdom must warn the son of Lamech. He must explain the coming devastation. No corner of creation will escape the flood. But Michael, mightiest of angels, receives the gravest charge of all. Go, Michael, bind Samyaza and his associates who have mixed with women and defiled themselves. When they have witnessed the destruction of their beloved children, bind them for 70 generations in the valleys of the earth until the day of judgment, the day of the great consummation. 70 generations. A prison sentence beyond human reckoning, not a quick execution, but a drawn-out agony of waiting. They who thought themselves beyond time will now feel every slow second of it passing. The angels bow, their missions clear. Heaven's justice machine rumbles into motion. Enoch witnesses this divine council meeting. He sees how heaven responds to crisis. This isn't mindless destruction. It follows procedure, deliberation, specific roles assigned to specific angels. The archangels depart, each to their solemn duty. They move like lightning across the vault of heaven. Their wings stretch across the sky. Their light blinds any who might glimpse them. Michael descends first. His presence makes the earth tremble. Mountains shift, forests bend. He seeks the rebel angels where they gather in the valleys of the earth. Raphael follows, carrying chains no created being can break. They are forged from elements that existed before the world began. Darkness swirls around him, ready to entomb the teacher of forbidden knowledge. Uriel's light flashes in warning. Those with eyes to see recognize the signal. Most humans, lost in corruption, notice nothing. Gabriel approaches Noah. The righteous man falls on his face at first sight of the celestial messenger. Stand up, Gabriel tells him. Heaven has plans for you. Enoch records these scenes with awe. The machinery of divine justice moves with precision beyond human courts. No appeal exists. No plea bargain. The sentence handed down will be carried out exactly as decreed. The archangels return to their places around the throne when their tasks are complete. They stand as living symbols of God's will enacted. They serve as models for later religious tradition, beings of purpose, power, and unwavering duty. Behind them, bound in their separate prisons, the Watchers await final judgment. Their giant children face destruction in the coming flood. The age of human-angel interaction comes crashing to its end. Heaven seals itself off. The lessons have been taught, the boundaries re-established. Earth must now face the cleansing waters. The flood is cleansing fire. Water and fire seem opposites, yet in Enoch's vision, the coming flood burns like flame. It cleanses, it purifies, it destroys completely what cannot be saved. The world before the flood exists in Enoch's telling as a place of monstrous corruption. Human sin merges with angelic rebellion. The natural order has been broken beyond normal repair. God speaks to Enoch. Look upon the earth. See what the Watchers have done. All has been corrupted. The giants consume and destroy without end. Water becomes God's tool of total renewal. Not a gentle rain, but the unleashing of cosmic forces. The windows of heaven open. The fountains of the deep break through. Water from above, water from below. Creation itself participates in the cleansing. Noah works on his ark as the archangels complete their tasks around him. The bound watchers can only watch as the end approaches. Their punishment includes witnessing the death of their beloved children. They will be destroyed by waters, Enoch writes, recording God's decree. A flood shall come for 1 year. Nothing will survive except what is with Noah. The Nephilim, those mighty giants born of human women and angelic fathers, face extinction. Their physical forms will drown. Their spirits, however, Enoch tells us, will remain. Here emerges one of the text's most lasting contributions to later demonology. The spirits of the giants shall be like clouds. The book states, they will corrupt, fall, fight, bruise upon the earth. They will cause sorrow. They will attack, struggle, and throw upon the earth. They will take no food, but will hunger and thirst and cause destruction. The flood doesn't end all evil. It instead transforms physical monsters into spiritual ones. The Nephilim become the disembodied demons of later tradition, hungry ghosts seeking bodies to inhabit. Water rises, the cleansing begins. For 40 days, rain falls without stopping. Water rises even above the tallest mountain summits. Everything outside the ark perishes. Through prophetic sight, Enoch observes this. He witnesses the world as it was, throughout the event, and in its aftermath, following this cosmic restoration. He comprehends it not as random obliteration, but as precise excision of decay. In Enoch's record, the pre-flood world remains preserved as a cautionary tale. When divisions between heaven and earth break down, disorder emerges. When understanding arrives absent discernment, catastrophe ensues. Only Noah's household makes it through. 8 people tasked with restoring civilization. Throughout the year-long deluge, the ark shields them, creatures accompany them, life safeguarded within death's domain. Once the waters withdraw, God makes his covenant. Water will never again destroy all living things. This pledge is confirmed by the rainbow. Still, Enoch perceives beyond this instant. Water brought the first purification. Fire, he foretells, will bring the next. From all decay, from every transgression, from all retribution and suffering, the earth will be cleansed. Enoch records, I will not send these again upon the earth from generation to generation forever. In Enoch, the flood narrative carries deeper significance than Genesis alone conveys. It signals the conclusion of the Watcher's immediate impact on human chronicles. It creates definitive boundaries, separating heaven and earth. It converts tangible wickedness into immaterial wickedness. Above all, it demonstrates God's refusal to completely forsake creation. Within destruction itself, preservation exists. Human possibility continues through Noah. The creatures perpetuate their species. Vegetation will sprout anew. Life begins again. Enoch's account of the flood reaches beyond 40 days and 40 nights. He observes it as a 12-month cycle of ending and beginning. The emerging world appears identical, yet stands fundamentally altered. The imprisoned watchers stay bound within their shadowed gorges. The essences of their giant offspring now drift as formless beings. Humanity reconstructs without direct angelic involvement. A fresh era commences. The world before the flood dissolves into legend and recollection. What might otherwise vanish finds preservation in Enoch's testimony. Divine retribution, angelic foolishness, and creation's restoration. The 3 parables. An overview. Next arrives the core of Enoch's book. 3 powerful visions. 3 parables concerning conclusions and commencements. Moving forward from the ancient deluge, Enoch's attention turns ahead. He observes humanity's closing chapter. His perception penetrates time's curtain. Enoch names this section the second vision of wisdom. These visions transcend mere prediction. They unveil cosmic frameworks of reckoning, deliverance, and metamorphosis. Each parable reveals itself through remarkable imagery. Each bears warnings alongside promises. United, they constitute the theological heart of the complete book. The opening parable addresses heaven itself, its multitudes, its residents, its dimensions and enigmas. Enoch observes the dwelling spaces of the virtuous. He views where sacred ones find rest following death. He catches sight of the concealed Messiah figure, awaiting revelation. The middle parable concentrates on the day of reckoning. The enigmatic Son of Man emerges. Monarchs shake with fear. The virtuous celebrate. Every secret becomes visible. The closing parable discloses the ultimate compensation of the virtuous and the concluding condemnation of the corrupt. Light and shadow divide completely. Fresh heavens take form. A remade earth awaits those deemed deserving. These visions don't arrive to Enoch in sequence. They curve and double back upon themselves. They display concurrent realities through varying perspectives. What was, what is, and what will be merged together. I saw the secrets of heaven, Enoch reveals to us. Not far-off forecasts, but everlasting certainties already fixed beyond time's flow. From heaven's vantage point, what will transpire has already taken place. 4 unique characteristics distinguish these parables. First, their universal reach. Enoch perceives beyond earth toward the complete created arrangement. Second, their focus on virtue and reckoning. Heaven's measures extend to all. Third, their conception of celestial records, where every action finds documentation. Nothing eludes divine awareness. Fourth, the appearance of a messianic figure delivering God's ultimate justice. The parables communicate through symbolic vocabulary. Creatures signify peoples. Celestial bodies represent angels. Peaks transform into authorities and dominions. Understanding demands spiritual perception. Who can read the mind of God? Enoch inquires. Who can see as angels see? Still, the parables strive to convert heavenly reality into human speech. Later, religious leadership found these chapters disturbing. Their apocalyptic intensity opposed institutional authority. Their messianic descriptions appeared overly detailed, overly revolutionary. For Jesus' early followers, though, these parables held tremendous importance. The Son of Man positioned beside the Ancient of Days, the pre-existing one selected prior to creation. These pictures profoundly influenced early Christian understanding. Before the sun and stars were made, before the powers of heaven were created, his name was named before the Lord of Spirits. Enoch records concerning this messianic figure. Similar expressions would surface later in Christian texts regarding Christ. The 3 parables operate as portals into heaven's outlook. They disclose time as God observes it, not sequential but whole. They reveal justice as heaven grasps it, not diminished but total. Enoch receives these visions while remaining in his earthly form. The text stresses this detail again and again. A mortal man observes what typically only the deceased may witness. I was carried aloft in a vision, he clarifies. I saw the holy ones of heaven. This immediate access to divine mysteries establishes the foundation of his credibility. The parables represent Enoch's most significant contribution. Their imagery enhanced Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Their portrayals of cosmic justice sparked movements throughout ages. When we study apocalyptic literature across history, we discover reflections of Enoch's 3 parables. Their influence reaches well beyond their initial setting. Even now, when individuals envision final judgment, heaven's blessings, or messianic coming, they frequently unconsciously rely upon imagery originally expressed in these ancient writings. The righteous one, initial glimpses of a Messiah, a figure steps forth from radiance, neither completely angel nor simply human. Enoch observes him and questions, "Who is this?" He asks his angelic companion, "This is the Son of Man," arrives the response. "This is the one to whom righteousness belongs. With him righteousness dwells." Here, in writings predating Christianity by centuries, appears a messianic portrait that would deeply influence religious history. The designation Son of Man would subsequently become Jesus of Nazareth's preferred self-reference. The picture of a pre-existing heavenly figure delivering final reckoning would reshape Jewish messianic anticipations. Within Enoch's opening parable, this mysterious figure appears positioned beside the head of days, another designation for God himself, not standing as a servant would, but positioned in the place of power and equivalence. His face was full of grace like one of the holy angels, Enoch records. Still, this represents no common angel. This figure renders judgment upon angels themselves. 4 unique attributes characterize Enoch's messianic figure. First, his existence before time. He received his name prior to the creation of sun and stars. Second, his virtue. He embodies flawless harmony with heaven's measures. Third, his function as arbiter. Monarchs and powerful individuals tremble in his presence. Fourth, his position as the chosen one. God himself has appointed him for this universal role. This Son of Man you have seen shall raise up kings and mighty men from their thrones. He shall loosen the reins of the strong and crush the teeth of sinners. Such words held revolutionary meaning. Within a world dominated by empires and tyranny, Enoch envisioned divine reversal of earthly power arrangements. The Messiah would invert the established order. The first would transform into last. The last would transform into first. The heavenly figure manifests with twin purposes, reckoning and deliverance. For the virtuous, his appearance signifies vindication. For the corrupt, his arrival delivers dread. He shall put down the kings from their thrones and kingdoms, Enoch proceeds, because they do not praise and glorify him, nor thankfully acknowledge from whom their kingdom was bestowed. This cosmic arbiter perceives all mysteries. Nothing stays concealed from his sight. He measures not merely actions, but motivations, not merely visible deeds, but hidden contemplations. In those days, the earth will give back what has been entrusted to it. Sheol will return what it has received. The elect one shall sit on my throne. The resurrection of the deceased accompanies the Messiah's coming. Judgment demands all to be present, both living and dead. Heaven's ledgers open wide. Every existence undergoes examination. Most remarkable is how this heavenly figure merges aspects previously divided in Jewish tradition. He possesses divine characteristics, yet remains separate from God. He wields divine power, yet obtains it from another. He exists from before creation's dawn, yet manifests at history's conclusion. He shall judge all the works of the holy ones in heaven. He shall weigh their deeds in the balance. Even angels encounter his judgment. The watchers held captive until the great day will obtain their ultimate sentence from him. Their provisional bonds become everlasting punishment. For early Christians, these sections appeared to portray Jesus with remarkable precision. The Gospel authors relied extensively upon this imagery. Jesus himself referenced and alluded to Enochic traditions. When the Son of Man comes in his glory, Jesus declares in Matthew's Gospel, and all the angels with him, then he will sit on his glorious throne. The correspondence to Enoch's vision is unmistakable. This messianic figure additionally delivers solace to the afflicted. He removes every tear. He institutes justice where decay previously ruled. He converts the world into what it should have been from the beginning. With this Son of Man, they shall live and eat and lie down and rise up forever and ever. The virtuous obtain eternal companionship with him. Their compensation isn't merely survival, but close communion with the divine representative. While subsequent Jewish and Christian traditions would expand these concepts further, their origins rest here in Enoch's parables. A heavenly Messiah, an ultimate arbiter, a defender of the virtuous, a pre-existing one who steps into history at its peak. For those who initially encountered these words, they provided hope, transcending immediate affliction. Monarchs and empires might govern presently, but their authority was fleeting. The authentic king waited in heaven. His coming would restore all things properly. the Ancient of Days and the heavenly court, beyond stars, beyond time, a throne of blazing fire. Enoch's vision proceeds. He observes the Ancient of Days, God himself, presiding over heaven's tribunal. White hair resembling pure wool, garments resembling snow, eyes resembling flames of fire. Thousands stood before him. Enoch records. 10,000 times 10,000 attended him. Numbers surpassing counting encircle the throne. Angels of every rank and classification await the ancient's instruction. Unlike human tribunals with conflicting testimony and doubtful verdicts, this court functions with complete knowledge. Ledgers open before the judge. Every deed documented, every utterance preserved, every thought captured within heaven's flawless memory. The judgment was set and the books were opened, Enoch informs us. This expression would subsequently resound in the book of Revelation. The picture of heaven's record-keeping became established in religious consciousness. In the book of life, where salvation or condemnation stands written, 4 rivers surge from beneath the throne, fire not water creates their flow. Angels of retribution stand prepared. The chambers of reckoning await their inhabitants. I looked and saw a lofty throne, Enoch continues. Its appearance was like crystal, and its wheels like the shining sun, and from beneath the throne came rivers of burning fire. The Ancient of Days does not pass judgment alone. The Son of Man sits at his right side. United, they examine humanity's deeds. United, they declare sentence. Compensation or condemnation, life or second death. Enoch observes something few mortals witness. Heaven's complete court convened. Angels of every order gather. Powers and dominions assume their positions. Cherubim and seraphim stand at readiness. The head of days came with Michael and Gabriel, Raphael and Phanuel, and thousands and 10,000s of angels without number. This heavenly gathering serves particular purpose. The moment has arrived to judge the watchers completely. Their provisional chains will now transform into everlasting punishment. Their 70 generations of waiting have concluded. Each watcher approaches the throne. Each hears his sentence declared. No appeal exists. No compassion awaits those who perverted God's creation and instructed humans in prohibited knowledge. The enigma of wickedness finds partial clarification here. Why does evil persist? Why do the virtuous suffer while wickedness appears to flourish? Enoch's response: delayed justice is not rejected justice. Heaven's court will speak the final word. The Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time arrived when the saints gained possession of the kingdom. Here surfaces another revolutionary concept: heaven's dominion transferred to earth. Not merely condemnation for the corrupt, but compensation for the faithful. Not escape from the world, but its transformation. The heavenly court creates a template for human justice. Documentation must be maintained, evidence must be assessed, witnesses must give testimony, verdicts must mirror truth instead of power or connections. In those days shall the earth give back what has been entrusted to it, and Sheol shall give back what it has received. The resurrection accompanies reckoning. Those long deceased will stand before the throne, bodies and souls rejoin to confront heaven's verdict together. Most striking in Enoch's vision is the certainty of justice. No corruption can influence the Ancient of Days. No trickery can deceive the Son of Man. No power can oppose heaven's sentence once delivered. For ancient readers existing under corrupt human arrangements, this vision provided deep hope. Pharaohs and emperors might evade human justice, but heaven's court awaited them. The oppressed would witness vindication. The corrupt would encounter consequences. In those days, the angels shall gather together and thrust themselves toward the east upon the Parthians and Medes. They shall shake their kings, so that a spirit of unrest shall come upon them and stir them up from their thrones. Earthly thrones will collapse, heavenly power will triumph. The court proceedings, Enoch observes, established cosmic restoration, wickedness judged, virtue compensated, creation renewed. When early Christians discussed the day of the Lord, or the last reckoning, they relied upon imagery initially articulated in these sections. The Ancient of Days positioned on his throne, ledgers opened, angels assembled, sentences declared. Enoch stands as observer to these proceedings. He perceives what lies beyond history's curtain. He returns bearing warning and promise together. Reckoning approaches for all, yet deliverance awaits the faithful. The chosen one and the elect. Night has descended over ancient Judea. The stars gleam like silver points in the deep fabric of sky. In a modest room illuminated by oil lamps, a scribe meticulously transcribes words onto parchment. These are the visions of Enoch, words that will someday be concealed, feared by certain people, cherished by others. Who will be delivered when the world concludes? Who encounters reckoning? These inquiries have pursued us since we first gazed at the stars and sensed our own insignificance. The Book of Enoch provides responses that subsequently influenced how numerous faiths perceive salvation. Within the second parable, Enoch discusses the chosen one who sits upon a throne of glory. This figure would subsequently resonate through the centuries, establishing the foundation for messianic hopes throughout numerous faiths. The text names him the Son of Man, a designation that would later surface in the Gospels, spoken by Jesus himself. The chosen one in Enoch's vision stands facing the Ancient of Days, a figure of pure radiance positioned on a throne of fire. Here we discover the origins of what Christians would subsequently term the Second Coming. Long prior to the New Testament being composed, Enoch portrayed a final arbiter who would separate the virtuous from the corrupt. What makes Enoch's vision so remarkable is how it divides humanity into two distinct groups, the elect and the condemned. No middle territory exists in his cosmic courtroom. Those who adhere to divine law join the congregation of the elect. All others encounter severe judgment. The elect aren't selected by ancestry or prosperity or even religious affiliation. What matters in Enoch's vision is how individuals conduct themselves, their actions, their compassion, their loyalty to heaven's ways. Authority and riches signify nothing at the ultimate accounting. In one touching section, Enoch portrays how the prayers of the virtuous ascend like smoke toward heaven. Nothing vanishes, no good action disappears without trace. The universe itself recalls who demonstrated mercy, who protected the vulnerable, who remained steadfast against darkness. Those chosen discover their names inscribed in heavenly ledgers, cosmic registers that monitor every human existence. These books become fundamental to subsequent Jewish and Christian concepts about reckoning. We still reference today the Book of Life, a direct reflection of Enoch's ancient vision. What's radical about Enoch's perception of the elect is how it transcends earthly authority. Monarchs and paupers stand as equals, facing the throne. This message held profound attraction for Jews existing under foreign domination, for early Christians confronting Roman authority, for anyone who felt oppressed by the powerful. Light fills the dwellings of the chosen ones in Enoch's vision. Their countenances shine like the sun. Their eyes sparkle with internal fire. The text depicts salvation not as withdrawal from the world, but as metamorphosis, becoming beings of radiance while retaining human shape. The chosen exist forever in Enoch's vision, length of days with the Son of Man. This distinct picture of eternal existence appears here prior to numerous other Jewish texts embracing it. Enoch stands at a pivotal point when hope for justice transferred from this world toward the next. Many scholars think these sections about the elect influenced early Christian thinking. The hidden book whispered its mysteries through the centuries, discussing cosmic justice when earthly tribunals failed. In moments of darkness, the assurance that someone was maintaining account of both virtuous and wicked actions provided solace to the suffering. What does it signify to be chosen? Enoch reveals to us to walk in radiance, to demonstrate mercy, to maintain faith with heaven, even when everything appears lost. His vision reminds us that in the longest perspective, the perspective from beyond time itself, what matters most is how we regard each other on our temporary journey together. Secrets of time and space. The night sky rotates slowly above the desert. A solitary figure stands, observing the stars trace their courses. Enoch, seventh from Adam, perceives beyond what other eyes can perceive. His visions extend past the barrier of our world into realms of radiance and shadow beyond. The Book of Enoch transports us on a cosmic expedition unlike any other ancient text. It draws back the curtain between worlds to disclose secrets of time and space that challenge the minds of its initial readers and still astonish us today. I saw the winds that turn the sky, Enoch informs us. I saw the storehouses of snow and the chambers of hail. His exploration of the universe displays a cosmos alive with intention where nothing occurs by accident. Every star possesses its position. Every season adheres to divine design. Angels escort Enoch through realms no human eye has witnessed. He walks through crystal palaces where time itself is woven like thread. He observes the first heaven and then 6 more beyond it, each more magnificent than the previous. These 7 heavens would subsequently influence how numerous faiths picture the arrangement of creation. In the uppermost places, Enoch observes wheels of fire rotating within wheels, cosmic mechanisms that propel the universe forward through time. This vision would subsequently inspire the prophet Ezekiel and innumerable mystics attempting to comprehend how God's will manifests in our world. What makes these visions so remarkable is how they merge science and spirit. Enoch meticulously notes the courses of stars, the movement of planets, the current of celestial rivers. Still, he perceives these as more than natural phenomena. They disclose the mind behind all things, the design woven into creation itself. In one breathtaking section, Enoch stands at the extremities of the earth, where heaven contacts the world. He observes doors opening in the sky where the sun ascends and descends. He watches stars emerge from cosmic portals at their designated times. The universe operates like flawless clockwork in his vision. Time itself appears different through Enoch's eyes. He discusses days before days, a realm where past, present, and future merge together like rivers meeting the sea. He observes the scroll of what is to arrive, unfurled before him, inscribed before time commenced. This perception of eternity influenced how subsequent faiths would comprehend God's knowledge of all things. Enoch's expedition transports him to the place beyond north, where he discovers mountains of precious stones, sapphire, ruby, emerald. These aren't merely treasures, but the foundation blocks of higher worlds. The physical universe in Enoch's vision is merely the shadow of something far greater. Light itself possesses substance in these visions. Angels are clothed in light as with fabric. The throne room of the Most High blazes with light beyond light that would blind mortal eyes. This comprehension of light as both physical and spiritual would subsequently influence how numerous traditions picture divine presence. Perhaps most striking are the locations where spirits wait between life and death. Enoch observes great hollow mountains where souls rest until Judgment Day. Some slumber in peace, others know only darkness. Here, we discover early seeds of beliefs about purgatory, paradise, and places of waiting that would blossom in subsequent faiths. Water flows from beneath the throne of glory, rivers of mercy that nourish all creation. Fire burns without consuming what it touches. Air carries prayers like birds flying heavenward. The elements themselves possess purpose and significance in Enoch's cosmic vision. What does it signify for us today? This ancient map of heaven. Perhaps it reminds us that reality is deeper than what we observe with our eyes alone. There are patterns behind patterns, meanings within meanings. The universe in Enoch's vision isn't cold or random, but alive with purpose, a book for those who learn to decipher its signs. As stars wheel above and time flows around us like a river, Enoch's visions invite us to look deeper. Beyond the visible world lies another, equally real, but concealed from casual observation. For those with eyes to perceive, heaven touches earth at every moment. The ordinary world shimmers with hints of something more. Final judgment for kings and tyrants. The palace gleams with gold and marble. Guards stand at attention, faces expressionless as stone. Inside, a king dreams disturbed dreams. Though walls shield him and armies obey him, something unseen makes him fearful. The Book of Enoch addresses his fear directly. No text in ancient times opposed earthly authority more courageously than Enoch's visions. While other writings might gently propose that kings should be just, Enoch proclaims that all rulers, all who possess power over others, encounter special reckoning from heaven itself. I saw those who grasp the earth, Enoch informs us, whose words make mountains tremble. These powerful ones construct palaces and carve their names in stone. They trust their authority will endure forever. But Enoch perceives their authentic fate, and it isn't pleasant. The kings of earth stand exposed before the throne in Enoch's vision. No crowds applaud them, no courtiers praise them. Their crowns signify nothing, their prosperity purchases no advantage. Those who govern by force discover that force signifies nothing in the court of stars. What makes this vision so courageous is when it was composed. During times when opposing a king meant death, these words claimed that heaven itself maintained count of royal transgressions. Every unjust ruling, every stolen field, every widow left crying, all documented in ledgers no earthly hand could eliminate. The mighty shall be taken from their thrones, Enoch proclaims. This revolutionary message sparked hope among common individuals oppressed by taxes and conscription. It cautioned those in authority that their power arrived with cosmic accountability. No surprise, numerous rulers desired this book prohibited. In one remarkable section, angels display to Enoch a great valley where kings and the powerful will be cast. Their fine garments won't accompany them there. Their gold remains behind. All that persists is the essence of their souls and the weight of their actions against the scales of perfect justice. The arrogant discover humility too late. Those who never bowed must bow at last. Those who demonstrated no compassion discover none awaiting them. The cosmic balance composes itself in Enoch's vision, resolving accounts that earthly tribunals left unresolved. What makes this reckoning so thorough is how it eliminates all human status. Birth, prosperity, fame, all signify nothing. Only character persists. The shepherd who governed his flock with compassion stands taller than the king who governed his people with terror. Their faces shall be filled with shame, the text reveals to us, discussing fallen rulers. Not physical anguish, but the torment of perceiving clearly, perhaps for the first time, what they've accomplished and who they've been. This shame burns hotter than any fire in Enoch's cosmic courtroom. Still, reckoning in Enoch isn't merely condemnation, it's disclosure, truth exposed. Kings who governed with justice discover honor. Those who protected the vulnerable hear praise from angelic voices. Authority itself isn't wicked in this vision. Only its abuse encounters heaven's fury. The Book of Enoch speaks truth to authority across the ages. It reminds rulers that someone greater observes their actions. It informs the oppressed that justice waits beyond the reach of corruption and intimidation. This message proved so threatening that numerous with authority worked to eliminate it from memory. When early Christians, themselves confronting Roman authority, embraced these sections, they discovered courage to remain steadfast. When medieval peasants heard whispers of Enoch's vision, they perceived their sufferings in cosmic perspective. Even today, these ancient words remind us that authority without justice cannot endure forever. As night descends and palace lights dim, the king still lies awake. Something disturbs his dreams, perhaps the echo of Enoch's warning across the centuries. No wall is tall enough to exclude the truth, that all who rule must someday be ruled by the truth of who they've been and what they've accomplished. Resurrection and the afterlife. Sunset paints the sky in shades of amber and gold. In ancient times, individuals watched the sun sink below the horizon and questioned, where does light go when darkness arrives? Where do we go when our own light fades? The Book of Enoch provides responses that transformed how we think about death itself. Prior to Enoch's visions, numerous ancient Jews possessed only vague concepts about what waits beyond life. The early Hebrew Bible discusses Sheol, a dim location where the deceased become mere shadows of who they were. Not quite heaven, not quite hell, merely faded existence without joy or anguish. Enoch transformed everything. His visions displayed something radical, that death isn't the conclusion, but a doorway. The body returns to earth, but the spirit journeys onward. This perspective would subsequently influence how Christians, Muslims, and numerous others picture life following death. I saw the places prepared for the righteous, Enoch informs us. These aren't gloomy shadows, but realms of radiance where the holy ones walk in eternal light. The good discover joy transcending earthly pleasure. Their compensations match the goodness they demonstrated in life. What makes Enoch's vision so striking is its physical nature. This isn't merely spirits drifting in clouds. He portrays resurrection, the deceased rising with bodies transformed, but still somehow themselves. They consume the fruit of wisdom. They drink from rivers of light. Heaven in Enoch's vision is a location you can touch and taste. The virtuous don't merely survive in these visions, they shine. Their faces shall shine with joy, the text informs us. This concept of the blessed becoming beings of radiance would subsequently appear in Christian writing about saints and in Islamic visions of paradise. What begins in Enoch flows through numerous faiths. Not everyone remains deceased until Judgment Day in Enoch's intricate vision. Some, the most virtuous, already walk in paradise. Others slumber deeply, awaiting the final trumpet. Still others wander as spirits, neither completely here nor completely there. These varied paths beyond death would influence how numerous traditions picture the journey of souls. Perhaps most striking is Enoch's vision of bodily resurrection. Bone shall join to bone, he informs us, observing the deceased rise whole again. This distinct picture of physical return from death appears here prior to numerous other Jewish texts embracing it. Enoch stands at a pivotal point when hope extended beyond this world into the next. Justice persists after death in Enoch's vision. Those who suffered without reason discover comfort. Those who grieved discover joy. Tears are removed. Old wounds heal. The cosmic balance composes itself in ways the living can barely imagine. In one touching section, Enoch portrays how those who perished for truth's sake obtain special honor. Martyrs, those who sacrifice their lives rather than betray what's right, shine brightest in the world beyond. This concept would subsequently provide courage to innumerable individuals confronting death for their beliefs. The mysteries of death lose some of their sting in these ancient writings. Enoch displays to us that nothing good is truly lost, no compassionate word vanishes forever. No act of mercy goes unnoticed by the eyes that observe all things. What we construct in love outlasts the body's temporary journey. Time operates differently beyond the curtain in Enoch's vision. 1,000 years pass, like one day. A moment stretches to contain eternity. Those who cross over discover themselves beyond the river of time that carries the living along its flow. Past, present, and future merge together there, like streams joining the sea. What waits for us when breath stops and hearts grow still? Enoch provides hope across the centuries. Not emptiness but fullness, not darkness but radiance, not a conclusion but a beginning. The sun sets, yes, but only to ascend again in a location where no shadow falls. As stars manifest in the deepening sky, Enoch's words still whisper to us, "Death is a doorway, not a barrier. Beyond it waits a justice truer than earth has ever known, and a joy deeper than life's brightest moments." The ancient vision still provides comfort when we stand at the edge of mystery, confronting what waits beyond the light we know. The second death and eternal fire. A storm breaks over ancient hills. Lightning splits the sky like fractures in the world itself. In fire-lit caves, scribes document Enoch's darkest visions, warnings of reckoning that would influence how numerous faiths picture final justice. The Book of Enoch doesn't avoid portraying what waits for those who select darkness over radiance. Its vivid imagery of condemnation would subsequently influence Jewish, Christian, and Islamic perspectives of hell. These aren't comfortable visions to carry, but they constitute part of Enoch's contribution across time. "I saw a deep valley burning with fire," Enoch informs us. This location of flame surfaces repeatedly in his visions. A realm where those who rejected compassion discover none awaiting them. The text names this the second death, not merely the body's conclusion, but something deeper and more final. What's striking about Enoch's vision of reckoning is how it balances cosmic scales. Those who inflict suffering now experience it. Those who demonstrated no compassion obtain none. Those who love darkness dwell in it forever. The condemnation matches the transgression with perfect justice that no earthly tribunal could achieve. Angels with whips of fire propel the condemned toward their fate in these ancient writings. These aren't demons, but agents of divine justice, executing sentences against those who harmed others without remorse. Much subsequently, Dante would rely upon these pictures for his Inferno, portraying circles of hell where condemnation mirrors transgression. The condemned traverse a bridge over an abyss in one haunting section. Those who exist justly cross safely. Those weighed down by wicked actions fall into rivers of fire below. This picture of a judgment bridge would subsequently surface in Islamic traditions about the Sirat, a crossing as thin as a hair over hellfire. Unlike subsequent medieval visions of torture chambers, Enoch's perspective of condemnation possesses purpose. It's not suffering for its own sake, but the natural consequence of selections made in life. Those who constructed barriers between themselves and others discover themselves barred from radiance. Those who burned with hatred now burn in a more literal sense. The kings and the powerful encounter special torment in these visions. Their authority can't deliver them. Their prosperity purchases no comfort. Those who inflict the most harm through their actions encounter the harshest reckoning. A warning that resonates through history to all who possess power over others. In one striking section, the condemned observe paradise but cannot access it. They watch the joy of the virtuous from afar, adding regret to their suffering. What hurts most isn't physical anguish, but clear perception, perceiving at last what might have been, what they lost through their own selections. Time itself operates differently in these realms of condemnation. What feels like eternity may not be. Some sections hint at eventual compassion, fire that purifies rather than merely destroys. Subsequent readers would dispute intensely whether Enoch's eternal fire truly signifies never-ending torment or something else. The Book of Enoch doesn't take pleasure in these visions of reckoning. They arrive with sorrow, with warning, with pleading for humans to select better paths while they still can. The text repeats repeatedly that these fates can be avoided through virtuous living, through compassion demonstrated to others. What makes these sections powerful isn't merely fear, but their assurance of perfect justice. In a world where the corrupt often flourish and the good suffer, Enoch assures that the final accounting restores all things properly. No wicked action goes unobserved. No harm done to others fades from the cosmic record. Rivers of fire flow in these visions, but so do rivers of compassion. Darkness possesses its realm, but it cannot overcome radiance. Wickedness possesses its moment, but not the final word. Even in its darkest sections, Enoch's message contains seeds of hope that creation moves toward justice through all its long unwinding. The storm passes, rain washes the hills clean, the scribes complete their work, documenting visions both bright and dark. Enoch's words would resonate through centuries, influencing how innumerable individuals confront the great questions. How should we exist? What waits beyond death? Will justice arrive at last? As dawn breaks over ancient lands, the message persists. Our selections matter. They resonate beyond the temporary span of our days. What we construct with our lives, whether barriers or bridges, prisons or gardens, accompanies us into realms where all things hidden arrive to light at last. Enoch, the astronomer. The stars have always watched us. Long prior to we constructed tools to study them, they guided our ships, marked our seasons, and filled our stories. But few knew their mysteries like Enoch did. In a forgotten portion of his book lies something strange, not merely stories of angels or visions of reckoning, but careful notes about the sky. We name it the astronomical book, and it displays to us a side of Enoch we rarely discuss. Enoch, the sky observer. This ancient text contains one of the oldest known calendars, not simple markings of days, but a complete system for monitoring time. Enoch recorded how the sun moves through 12 portals in the sky. He counted the days of each month with precision. He monitored the moon's radiance as it grows and diminishes. The astronomical book wasn't merely idle stargazing. For Enoch, the sky was God's perfect timepiece. Every sunrise, every phase of the moon demonstrated divine arrangement. When celestial bodies moved in their courses, they proved God's laws held steady. But when they strayed, it signified trouble below. Unlike our modern calendar with its neat 12 months, Enoch's system followed a solar year of 364 days, not the 365 and a quarter we use today. This wasn't an error, it was intentional. A year of 364 days breaks down into 4 seasons of precisely 13 weeks each, perfect, clean, divine. This matters more than you might think. In Enoch's world, a perfect calendar signified perfect worship, the correct prayers on the correct days, the correct feasts at the correct times, a holy rhythm that matched heaven's beat. But Enoch noticed something that troubled him. The lunar year based on the moon's cycles didn't match his solar year. The two would drift apart over time. Some groups followed the moon, others the sun. Their holy days fell on different dates. For Enoch, this wasn't merely a small problem of timing. It struck at the core of faith itself. How could God's people worship together if they couldn't agree when to worship? How could they follow divine law if they couldn't agree which day was holy? The astronomical book warns about those who err by following the moon. Strong words for Enoch. Wrong dates signified wrong worship, and wrong worship shattered the covenant with God. We discover clues here about real conflicts in Enoch's time. The temple priests in Jerusalem disputed about which calendar to follow. Some adhered to older moon-based ways. Others advocated for the sun-based system Enoch favored. These weren't merely dry debates among scholars. They influenced when individuals fasted, feasted, and prayed. Enoch's star wisdom goes deeper than merely monitoring days. He maps the courses of stars and planets. He notes how they ascend and descend in different locations as seasons transform. For each month, he documents how long days and nights should be down to precise portions of hours. This isn't the work of a dreamer, but of an observer, someone who sat night after night counting and measuring, someone who perceived patterns where others perceived only scattered lights, someone who believed that in those patterns lived the mind of God. Some scholars think the astronomical book might be the oldest portion of Enoch's writings. Its origins could reach back to the 3rd century BCE, maybe even earlier. Long prior to modern tools, Enoch and his kind constructed a science of the sky, using only their eyes and their patience. What strikes us most is how Enoch binds together what we now maintain apart. For him, studying stars wasn't separate from studying scripture. The same mind that monitored planets also received visions. The same eyes that measured moonlight also glimpsed heaven's throne. In our world, we split these things. Science here, faith there, astronomy in one room, theology in another. But Enoch knew no such barriers. The mathematics of the cosmos and the compassion of God were threads in the same cloth. Think of him on those ancient nights. No light but the stars, no tools but his eyes, counting days, monitoring phases, filling clay tablets or papyrus sheets with careful marks, not knowing his notes would last thousands of years, not guessing we would still study them when our own tools could spot galaxies he never dreamed of. The astronomical book reminds us that Enoch was not merely a mystic who observed visions. He was a thinker who constructed systems, not merely a prophet who spoke God's words, but a student who interpreted God's skywriting. His calendar didn't persist. His star portals aren't on our maps. But his hunger to discover arrangement in the vastness above that persists in every observatory, in every chart of the stars, in every attempt to place our tiny lives within cosmic time. When we look up on clear nights, we stand where Enoch stood under the same stars, asking the same basic questions. How does it all operate? What does it all signify? How do these distant lights speak to our temporary lives below? For Enoch, the responses arrived through patient observation, night after night, season after season, the kind of deep looking that transforms into wisdom, the kind of wisdom that connects earth to heaven, the kind of connection that transforms a man like Enoch into something more than human. Next time you observe the moon wax full, then wane to nothing, think of him. The man who counted its phases and discovered in them not merely a timepiece, but a key to God's arrangement. The man who knew that true worship signified watching not merely with faith, but with precision and attention. The man who perceived in each sunrise not merely radiance, but law, mapping heaven. The angel Uriel as tour guide. Imagine being taken by the hand and led through the cosmos, not by a friend or teacher, but by a being of pure radiance. This was Enoch's fate when the angel Uriel became his guide to heaven's mysteries. Uriel signifies light of God or fire of God. Among the angels, he stands out as the keeper of wisdom, the master of cosmic truths. Of all heaven's beings, Uriel was selected to display to Enoch how the universe operates. Their journey begins at the edge of our world. Uriel points to the sun and instructs Enoch to observe closely. The sun doesn't merely ascend and descend by chance. It moves through portals in the dome of the sky, 6 portals in the east where it ascends, 6 portals in the west where it descends. Look, Uriel might have stated, in summer, the sun uses the northmost portals, in winter, the southmost ones. This is why days grow long, then short, then long again. Simple facts to us, but deep truths to Enoch. Each portal marked not merely a location, but a time, a season, a call to plant or harvest, a day to fast or feast. The sun's course instructed humans when to act and when to wait. But Uriel displayed more than merely the sun's road. He mapped the winds, 4 great winds from 4 portals, each with its own task, winds that delivered heat or cold, winds that carried rain or kept it away, winds that blessed crops or cursed them with drought. Pay heed, Uriel might have cautioned. When these winds stray from their portals, trouble arrives to earth. They must maintain their proper courses, just as humans must maintain God's law. In Enoch's cosmos, nothing moves by chance. Each star possesses its location, each planet its course. The whole sky rotates like a great wheel around God's throne. When things shift from their established course, it's not a mere change in weather. It's a fracture in creation itself. One of the strangest portions of Uriel's tour arrives when he displays to Enoch where stars go to perish. Yes, in this ancient perspective, stars can transgress just like humans. Stars that violate God's law are cast down into a deep pit. There they burn but give no radiance. They suffer but no one observes their flames. The stars you no longer observe in the sky, Uriel clarifies, were not merely extinguished, they were judged, cast out. They serve now as signs of what occurs to those who stray from sacred paths. This strange concept, fallen stars as fallen angels, blurs the line between science and spirit. For Enoch, there was no such line. The physical laws of the cosmos and the moral laws for humans flowed from the same source, broken the same way, were restored by the same hand. As the tour proceeds, Uriel displays to Enoch 12 great mountains made of precious stones. These aren't hills you could climb on earth. They're the pillars that hold up heaven's dome, made of gold and silver, ruby and jade. The bones of the universe dressed in radiance. Then arrive the great waters, not merely seas we sail, but cosmic oceans above and below the world. Waters held back by God's word alone, the same waters that once broke loose in Noah's flood, the same waters that could conclude all things if God willed it. These are not merely waters, Uriel might have stated. They are God's reckoning, held in check for now. Respect them as you would respect the edge of a great cliff. Through it all, Enoch records what he observes, not sketching maps as we would, but noting courses and times and seasons. His book becomes a traveler's guide to locations no human eye has witnessed. What strikes us most about Uriel's tour is how it merges what we now term astronomy with pure vision. The same sections that monitor the moon's phases also count the ranks of angels. The same words that map the sun's course also mark the roads to paradise and condemnation. For Enoch and Uriel, the stars were more than burning gas. They were living lights. The wind was more than moving air. It was the breath of purpose. The portals of the sky were real doors that opened and closed by divine design. In our time, we've split these perspectives. Science peers through telescopes, while faith looks through scripture. But in Enoch's world, the book of nature and the book of God told one story in different words. Uriel's name hints at his role, light of God. He brings radiance not merely as brightness, but as knowing, as perceiving what was concealed. He displays to Enoch not merely how things move, but why they matter. Their journey transports them to the edges of the world, to locations where radiance and dark are born, to the storerooms where God maintains snow and hail, waiting to be used as weapons or blessings, to the very throne from which God rules both mortals and angels. Through Uriel's eyes, Enoch perceives that the cosmos is not vast and empty, as we might think. It's packed with purpose, filled with eyes that watch and hands that guide. There are no dead spaces in this universe, no locations where God's law doesn't reach. As Enoch's journey concludes, he makes his way back to earth. Yet he is no longer simply a man whose feet tread upon the soil. He is transformed into someone who possesses knowledge of the heavens' mysteries. Someone who has witnessed the mechanisms and workings of all creation. Someone who comprehends that every dawn is not merely illumination piercing the darkness, but rather a portal opening wide. The charts he carries home are not sketched upon parchment. Instead, they are composed in language that blends reality with revelation, knowledge with poetry. They reveal to us not simply the locations of celestial bodies in the vastness of space, but their significance within the divine blueprint. Modern maps trace highways and waterways. The map Enoch brought back traced ethical pathways among the celestial spheres. Contemporary science calculates distances measured in light years and orbital mechanics. Enoch's understanding calculated the span separating mortal deeds from heavenly purpose. Standing at the heart of this universal chart is Uriel, the celestial being of illumination, who demonstrates that genuine perception involves more than keen vision. It requires a receptive spirit, a consciousness prepared to discover significance in every stellar trajectory. every seasonal rotation, every gateway that parts to allow divine radiance to flow through. When we gaze upward into the darkness today, we might label constellations and wandering stars, calculate vast distances, and plot their movements. However, Enoch would inquire, can you perceive the doorways? Are you familiar with the routes? Are you able to interpret within these luminous points the principles that govern not merely physical matter, but human spirits? The solid dome and the depths below, stretched between our world and the celestial realm, extends an immense azure canopy. We name it the atmosphere. Enoch named it the firmament. Not merely vacant emptiness, but a substantial partition, a dividing structure between our reality and whatever exists beyond it. Within Enoch's understanding of the cosmos, this dome was not formed from nothingness. It possessed solidity, substance. One could make contact with it given sufficient altitude, constructed from crystalline waters solidified through divine command, a roof positioned overhead, a foundation beneath the feet of paradise. As Enoch's expedition with Uriel progresses into greater depth, we observe a universe constructed in tiers, resembling a dwelling with multiple stories. Our world occupies the lowest position. The firmament constitutes the initial ceiling. Rising above that region dwell celestial bodies, both fixed and wandering. Still higher exists the domain of angelic beings, and at the uppermost level, the chamber of God's sovereignty. This perspective was not unique to Enoch's vision. It represented how the majority of ancient civilizations imagined existence, not a sphere rotating through the void, but a level expanse with abysses beneath and heights overhead. A central territory positioned between the supreme goodness and the deepest shadows. Uriel reveals to Enoch the boundaries of this earthly disk, locations where the firmament descends to meet the terrain. At these points rise enormous columns supporting the heavens, peaks so towering they penetrate the dome itself. Their summits reach dimensions no mortal eye beholds. These are the supports of the celestial realm. Uriel may have explained, the connection points where the divine upper dimension intersects humanity's lower plane. At these outer limits, Enoch observes streams of flame. Unlike our brooks that carry flowing water, these carry pure light, raw energy that nourishes the stars themselves. These currents do not descend toward any ocean. They ascend toward the throne of the Almighty. Then Uriel gestures toward the depths. Beneath our planet's surface exists yet another domain. Not paradise, but its shadowed counterpart, the pit, a region of obscurity and chill, of hollow winds and lightless eternity. Within this place reside spirits waiting for divine verdict. Here smolder the descended stars, radiating warmth yet casting no brightness. The abyss maintains its own entrances, its own sentinels, its own regulations. Not a location of absolute corruption, as subsequent interpretations would characterize it. More accurately, a holding chamber for the displaced, an interval between earthly existence and ultimate destiny. This chart of all existence, from pit to throne, reveals more than simple geography. It displays hierarchies of being. Our world rests at the center point, not through accident, but through intention. Humanity occupies the intersection of all realms, neither the most exalted creatures nor the most debased, but those who must determine which direction to face, upward toward illumination or downward toward obscurity. As Uriel continues forward, the expedition becomes increasingly extraordinary. Enoch witnesses the origin point of atmospheric forces and precipitation, not cloud formations as we understand them, but enormous storage facilities. Compartments constructed within the firmament's very structure. The divine presence maintains meteorological phenomena there like armaments in a repository, prepared to bless the virtuous with gentle showers or punish the corrupt with tempests. Observe there, Uriel indicates, the gateways where frozen precipitation waits in reserve, and there where crystalline snow accumulates in great drifts, all restrained by divine decree, all prepared to descend when the command is given. Then arrive the most extraordinary sights of the entire journey. Mountain formations unlike any found on our world, some composed of obscuring vapor that never dissipates, some built from flames that never extinguish themselves, some formed from precious stones that capture and refract heavenly radiance. These are not landmarks you could indicate on any earthly map. They occupy the space separating the dimensions we inhabit, not entirely within paradise, nor completely upon earth, connecting structures between what we observe and what we pursue. Throughout everything flows a singular theme: organization. Nothing within Enoch's cosmos occurs through random chance. No celestial body shifts without intention. No breeze stirs without purpose. The entire vast structure of existence adheres to a design established before the beginning of measured time. This revelation of universal organization provided solace in an existence that frequently seemed chaotic. When monarchs waged conflict and civilizations crumbled, Enoch could lift his gaze and observe the divine hand continuing to direct the stars' courses. When starvation arrived or plague swept through populations, he could maintain faith that even these shadowed periods fit within a pattern too immense for mortals to fully comprehend. Yet the cosmos Enoch charts is not static and motionless. It shifts, draws breath, possesses vitality. Stars come into being, and stars cease to exist. Winds gather strength and winds subside. The portals of heaven part to permit divine intention passage. The caverns of the abyss open wide to consume whatever descends from grace. It is an animate dwelling, a respiring creation, not a mechanism operating without consciousness, but a cultivated space tended by its creator's attention. Perhaps the most unusual aspect of Enoch's universal expedition arrives when he observes the absolute boundary of all things. The location where existence encounters absolute void, where divine utterance has given form to reality and past, which extends only emptiness. At this position stand celestial beings whose assignment never concludes. They preserve the separation between what exists and what does not. They mend any fracture in creation's protective shell. They ensure that disorder never seeps into established order. As long as they maintain their vigilance, Uriel clarifies, the world persists as a whole entity. Should they abandon their duty, everything would collapse back into the nothingness from which the divine summoned it. This boundary location reveals to Enoch something few sacred writings dare to propose. That creation is not merely a completed past action, but a continuous, ongoing effort. The divine does not simply fashion the world once and withdraw. Celestial power continues, restraining non-existence, generating space for existence with every passing moment. Near this outer limit, Enoch perceives one additional marvel. The absolute boundaries of the universe are constructed not from rock or forged metal, but from radiance itself, undiluted light bent and molded by divine command. Light so intense it would render mortal vision sightless, light that does not merely radiate, but produces harmonic sound. The resonating boundaries mark the ultimate limit of Enoch's expedition. Past them, even angelic beings fear to venture. Past them exists solely the unmediated divine presence, too undiluted, too potent for any fashioned being to encounter. As Uriel guides Enoch back in the direction of the mortal realm, the angel imparts one final teaching. The cosmos they have charted does not exist solely out there in the expanses of space. It dwells within every human heart equally. The identical gateways that open in the celestial sphere, Uriel explains, open within the soul. The identical currents that flow through paradise flow through human aspiration. The identical abyss that waits beneath the world waits within every decision to turn away from light. With these teachings, Enoch's universal expedition transforms into something beyond unusual cartography. It transforms into a chart of ethical territory. Every human existence mirrors the immense creation. Every spirit contains the identical conflict between illumination and shadow, structure and disorder. When Enoch returns to mortal territories, he carries back more than stellar charts or meteorological indicators. He carries a revelation that positions human existence at the center of universal drama. Not adrift in infinite space, not overwhelmed by limitless duration, but positioned where paradise and earth, radiance and shadow encounter and intermingle. The firmament overhead and the abyss underneath are not merely distant locations. They indicate the elevations to which we might ascend, the depths to which we might descend, the boundaries that simultaneously restrict and safeguard our fleeting, luminous lives. Visions from sleep, the bestial revelation. Dreams communicate in peculiar dialects. They display reality through disguises. Within the Book of Enoch, dreams are not simply nocturnal thoughts. They serve as divine instruments that unlock both history and what lies ahead. Among these visions, one distinguishes itself through its peculiar magnificence. We identify it as the animal apocalypse. Within this revelation, human history unfolds as a narrative of creatures. Individuals manifest as beasts, civilizations as herds, significant leaders as horned rams or powerful bulls. The vision arrives to Enoch during profound slumber. He observes the first human, Adam, materializing as a white bull. Eve accompanies him as a heifer. Their offspring adopt differing shapes. Abel as a sheep, Cain as a black bull. When Cain murders his brother, the scene depicts a bull impaling a sheep. As human lineages multiply, the beast forms transition and alter. The descendants of Seth, Adam's third offspring, manifest as white bulls. However, something unusual transpires. These bulls begin producing elephants, camels, and donkeys, distinct creatures for distinct peoples. The descendants of Israel remain as bulls, while other clans assume novel forms. Then arrives the deluge. Noah appears as a white bull, cautioning the herds. The waters ascend. Only those who respond to his warning survive. Following the flood, the bull Noah produces 3 bulls, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. From these 3 emerge all the beasts of the renewed world. The vision transitions to Abraham, depicted as a white bull, who produces Isaac, another white bull. Isaac produces Jacob, who begins as a bull, yet transforms into something novel, a sheep. With this transformation, the chosen lineage assumes a novel form. No longer powerful bulls, but modest sheep. The descendants of Israel increase as a flock. They journey to Egypt, where wolves, the Egyptians, subjugate them. Moses manifests as a sheep who takes on human characteristics. He guides the flock away from the wolves' territory. As they traverse the sea, the wolves perish in their chase. At Mount Sinai, the sheep, Moses, communicates with the Lord. He descends transformed, now partially sheep, partially human, signifying how divine instruction elevates humanity beyond bestial nature. The flock enters their designated territory. However, soon the sheep lose their sight. They deviate from correct pathways. They disregard the teachings given upon the mountain. They wander into shadowed regions where wolves and foxes, the Gentile peoples, rip at their bodies. Monarchs emerge among the sheep. Some attempt to guide the flock back to protected pastures. The majority are unsuccessful. The sheep construct a dwelling, the temple, yet they contaminate it with impure acts. The Lord of the sheep becomes wrathful. He permits wild beasts to encircle the flock. Lions and tigers, bears and wolves draw near. Then arrive the mighty empires as formidable predatory beasts. Assyria as lions, Babylon as eagles. Each assumes its rotation, tearing at the flock. The dwelling collapses, the sheep disperse. Some are consumed, some are conducted away in bondage. This segment of the vision displays Israel's collapse to foreign authorities, the obliteration of the first temple, the banishment to Babylon, shadowed periods when it appeared the flock might be lost eternally. However, the dream does not conclude in hopelessness. The Lord elevates shepherds to observe the sheep, angels who maintain vigilance over the flock during exile. Not all these shepherds prove righteous. Some permit excessive sheep to be captured by wolves. Some even assist the predators. For this, they encounter judgment. An unusual moment arrives when Enoch observes a book. Within it, the Lord tallies how many sheep should survive and how many may be lost. There exists a design, even within the suffering, a calculation maintained by divine hands. The flock returns to their territory. They construct a novel dwelling, the second temple. However, this dwelling differs from the first. It appears smaller, plainer, and many sheep continue wandering sightless. Then arrives an era of horned rams, the Maccabees who resisted Greek authority. They repel eagles and ravens that menace the flock. For a limited period, the sheep experience tranquility. They pursue true pathways once more. However, the most unusual aspect of the vision arrives at its conclusion. A mighty ram ascends with a powerful horn. This represents no common leader. This ram opposes all the predatory beasts, not merely one nation, but everything that oppresses. As this ram battles, something astonishing transpires. The sheep begin to transform, their vision opens. Their wool becomes white. Their nature changes. They become rams as well. Possessing horns to defend themselves, the hunted becomes like the protector. Then arrives the ultimate sign. A mighty bull with black legs materializes. All beasts retreat from his trajectory. All sheep, now transformed to rams, bow in his presence. This is not merely a monarch or prophet. This represents the Messiah figure arriving to transform existence. When this bull manifests, the previous order concludes. Wolves recline beside sheep. Lions consume vegetation like oxen. Predator and prey discover tranquility. The entire animal domain, all nations and peoples unite as one flock beneath one shepherd. The animal apocalypse relies upon symbols that communicated clearly to ancient audiences. Bulls signified authority and sovereignty. Sheep signified the common populace or the faithful. Predators represented nations that conquered and dominated. The transition from one beast form to another demonstrated how civilizations ascended and descended, how divine favor progressed through history. What renders this vision so remarkable is how it compresses all human history into a singular dream. From creation to ultimate judgment, the complete narrative unfolds as a tale of creatures. Yet, the creatures act with human volition. They select correct or incorrect pathways. They construct temples. They interpret laws. They are not merely animals, but people in bestial form. This unusual cipher, humanity as beasts, permitted Enoch to communicate difficult truths in protected terms. When actual monarchs and authorities threatened the faithful, direct language could result in death. However, dreams of bulls and sheep, these could circulate from hand to hand, cautioning and providing hope without identifying names. The animal apocalypse displays another dimension of Enoch's thinking. Not solely the mystic who explores heaven, but the instructor who interprets meaning in history. Not solely the star observer who follows cosmic principles, but the prophet who perceives divine action in human ascent and descent. For all its unusual beasts, the vision communicates a straightforward truth. History is not arbitrary. Nations do not ascend and descend through random chance. Through all the shifting of authority, a divine design unfolds. The dispersed sheep will eventually return home. The predators will eventually lose their fangs. The world will eventually discover the peace for which it was fashioned. This dream communicated hope to a people who frequently existed without it. Jews beneath foreign domination, faithful ones observing their temple being desecrated, common people crushed between mighty empires. To them, the animal apocalypse murmured, "The Lord continues observing the flock. The count of souls is recorded in heaven. The day approaches when prey no longer fears predator." In periods of peace, such dreams might appear as unusual imagination. However, in shadowed days, when actual wolves prowled at the entrance, Enoch's animals communicated more truth than any straightforward history could convey. Dream visions continued. The mighty white bull. The dream proceeds. The beasts continue communicating their wordless narratives, yet now the vision turns toward its conclusion, toward hope following extended darkness. As the animal apocalypse reaches its ultimate scenes, a figure manifests that halts all others in their movement. A mighty white bull with enormous black horns, strength flows from him like radiance. When he summons, all beasts, hunted and hunter alike, rotate their heads to attend. This is no ordinary monarch or prophet. This represents the Messiah figure, the one who arrives at the conclusion of days to render all things renewed. In certain Jewish writings, he receives the name Son of David. In others, the Anointed One. Here, within Enoch's dream, he assumes the form initially given to Adam, a white bull, yet greater still. When this white bull steps onto the field of history, transformation radiates outward from his footsteps. The sheep who had transformed to rams now shift once more. They become white bulls like him. They correspond to the form of the first human before transgression stained existence. They revert to the shape that the divine first blessed. This is not merely a transformation of appearance, but of essential nature. The faithful do not merely appear different, they become different. Their vision fully opened, their hearts fully cleansed, their strength fully matured. They assume the nature of the one they pursue. Even more unusual, the predators transform as well. Lions and bears, wolves and foxes, all the beasts that pursued the flock, abandon their hunger. They unite with the bulls and sheep in a novel kind of herd. One where ancient hatreds expire, where old wounds mend, where the blood obligation of ages discovers its ultimate settlement. They all transformed into white bulls, Enoch records, not merely the already faithful, but all creatures mighty and small. A universal transformation that leaves no being unaltered. At the center stands that first white bull. All vision turns to him. All hearts pulse with his cadence. He does not govern through terror as the predators did. He does not cower as the sheep once did. He guides by embodying what all others are destined to become. This vision of the mighty white bull reveals to us something essential about Enoch's hope. He did not merely desire for his people to triumph in some cosmic conflict. He hoped for a peace where ancient battle divisions fade, where even previous enemies discover a position at the gathering. The mighty white bull does not obliterate the wolves and bears. He transforms them. He does not merely rescue the sheep, he elevates them. His arrival signifies not the conclusion of the world, but its renewal. As this segment of the dream concludes, Enoch observes one additional marvel. The mighty white bull himself transforms form. He becomes a wild ox with mighty black horns. Strength upon strength, power upon power. Not merely a guide, but the absolute embodiment of sacred strength. All the herds celebrate at this sight. All beasts bow deeply. They produce a novel kind of melody, not the bleats of sheep or roars of lions, but a harmonized voice. The voice of creation, ultimately discovering the harmony for which it was fashioned. This dream within a dream communicates much about how Enoch perceived the final times. Not as an ultimate conflict where the righteous obliterate the corrupt, but as an ultimate peace where even the corrupt discover their pathway home. Not a discarding of the ancient world, but its healing. The mighty white bull embodies characteristics that subsequent traditions would divide among differing figures. He possesses the grandeur of a divine judge, the authority of a perfect monarch, the purifying force of a high priest, the understanding of a true prophet, all within one form, all within one being. For early audiences, this vision communicated directly to hearts wounded from conflict and deprivation. Jews who had witnessed their temple collapse, their cities consumed, their children captured as slaves. To them, the promise of a mighty white bull who would render all things correct was not merely comfort, it was the sole hope powerful enough to correspond with their anguish. We discover echoes of this white bull in subsequent writings. The book of Daniel communicates of one resembling a son of man, arriving with the clouds. The book of Revelation narrates of a rider upon a white horse whose name is Faithful and True. Differing images, identical promise, one will arrive who sets all things correct. However, Enoch's bull brings something these subsequent visions occasionally lack: universal hope, not solely some rescued while others consume, not solely the faithful compensated while transgressors suffer, rather all beings transformed, all forms rendered new. A cosmos not separated between paradise and perdition, but unified in one peaceful herd. This kind of hope can appear too straightforward now, too pristine for a world we recognize is complicated, too comprehensive for hearts we recognize remain fractured. However, perhaps that is precisely why Enoch's dream has persisted. It ventures to hope beyond what appears possible, to trust beyond what appears prudent. The mighty white bull stands as Enoch's response to the most difficult question faith can pose. Will it all prove worthwhile? Will the extended pain of history discover meaning? Will the innumerable tears discover purpose? Will the blood of martyrs and the ash of temples somehow blossom into something magnificent? Enoch's response radiates clearly. Yes, 1,000 times yes. All tears erased, all wounds mended, all separations connected, not through mortal hands but through divine ones. Not within our time frame, but within the divine. Certain scholars believe this segment of Enoch might have influenced early Christian perspectives of Jesus. The white bull who transforms all who pursue him. The one who renders previous enemies into family. The figure whose absolute presence transforms existence's nature. Others perceive connections to Jewish hopes for a Messiah who would restore David's throne and reconstruct the temple. The powerful ox whose strength would shatter the restraint of Rome and all oppressors. Still others discover hints of Persian thinking, the ultimate battle between radiance and shadow, the ultimate victory of goodness that draws even corruption back into the light. Whatever its origins, the vision of the mighty white bull offers hope, both unusual and straightforward. Unusual in its communicating beasts and transforming forms, straightforward in its promise that love triumphs, that peace arrives, that the divine completes what the divine initiates. When we conclude the pages on Enoch's dream visions, we remain with images that both disturb and restore. Bulls and sheep, wolves and lambs, predators and prey, discovering their pathway to a shared future. Not through the triumph of one faction, but through the transformation of all factions. In our world of barriers and conflicts, of clans and dangers, such dreams can appear as immature imagination. However, perhaps that is not fragility, but fortitude. Perhaps we require dreams too untamed to fit our calculated plans, hopes too immense to fit our restricted fears. The mighty white bull reminds us what hope resembled before it became cautious, before it learned to accept less, before it made accommodation with perpetual separation. He stands within the field of history, summoning all creatures to become what they were always destined to be. Not through compulsion, but through the absolute gravitational pull of perfection. Not through terror, but through the irresistible attraction of love. And within that summons, even now, pulses the heart of Enoch's most unusual, most daring dream. That eventually all bulls and bears, all sheep and wolves, all beings elevated and lowly, might unite a singular herd, might share a singular nature, might produce with a singular voice the melody creation was fashioned to produce. Descended stars and roaming planets, night descends over the ancient world, gaze upward at the heavens with me. Those points of radiance were more than merely stars to our forebears. They were conscious beings with intentions and responsibilities. Within the Book of Enoch, stars are not merely spheres of burning gas located billions of miles distant. They are sentient creatures with obligations to fulfill, and certain of them failed in their assignments. Enoch narrates to us of stars restrained by chains, stars expelled from their positions in the heavens, stars hurled into a deep, flaming abyss as punishment. These were not merely poetic imagery. They constituted part of a cosmic justice structure where even the celestial realm must answer for their transgressions. In one remarkable vision, Enoch observes 7 stars resembling mighty burning mountains. Their transgression, they failed to ascend at their designated moments. For this, they remain bound for 10,000 years. Consider what that signifies. In an existence without clocks or calendars, the stars served as how you measured time. When a star did not manifest when anticipated, it was not merely peculiar. It was a rupture in the divine order, an indication that something was profoundly wrong. The planets as well possessed particular significance. The word planet derives from the Greek for wanderer. Unlike stars that maintained their positions in the heavens night following night, planets traveled in unusual trajectories. Occasionally they even appeared to halt and travel backward. To Enoch and his audiences, these were not merely cosmic bodies following the principles of gravity and motion. They were angels who had deviated from their trajectories, rebels against Paradise's perfect design. When Uriel displays to Enoch the prison for descended stars, he characterizes it as a location chaotic and dreadful, a void where radiance itself receives punishment with darkness. This represents cosmic equilibrium at work. Those fashioned of light must encounter the absence of light as their judgment. However, why would stars descend? In Enoch's perspective, some united with the rebellion of the Watchers. Like the angels who descended to earth, these celestial beings possessed roles to fulfill, positions to maintain. Their wandering was not solely physical, but moral. This perspective of stars and planets influenced how people interpreted the night heavens for centuries. A comet was not merely a natural occurrence. A blood moon was not merely an eclipse. These were indicators, cautions, communications from beyond. When Matthew's Gospel narrates of a star that directed wise men to Jesus, audiences of Enoch would have comprehended stars could travel with intention. They could guide, direct, and disclose divine designs. And when Revelation communicates of stars descending to earth in the final days, it relies upon this identical cosmic vision. Stars are not merely distant points of radiance. They constitute part of the mighty drama of creation, descent, and restoration. Gaze upward tonight at the night heavens. Those pinpricks of radiance possess narratives to communicate, narratives of obligation and failure, of punishment and restoration. Narratives inscribed in the language of radiance and shadow, motion and stillness. In Enoch's world, everything within creation possessed its appropriate position, its moment to radiate, its trajectory to pursue. And when something deviated from alignment, whether angel, human, or star, the universe itself would labor to restore things correctly. The stars descended, yet in their descent, they instruct us about our own trajectories, our own obligations, our own requirement to remain faithful to the course established before us. For within Enoch's cosmos, nothing descends eternally. Even the stars will eventually be restored to their rightful position in the heavens. Enoch's celestial scrolls. Language possesses authority. It fashions worlds. It outlasts monarchs and empires. And within the Book of Enoch, language is not merely uttered. It is inscribed, maintained, preserved in heavenly books that document all things. Enoch narrates to us of immense libraries in the heavens, books that contain the actions of all who have ever existed, books that follow the trajectories of stars and the flights of birds, books that tally each droplet of rain that descends on earth. Nothing escapes these cosmic documentation. No murmured secret, no concealed thought, no action performed in darkness. Everything discovers its position in what Enoch identifies as the tablets of heaven. When Enoch travels through the cosmos, he encounters angels whose singular assignment is to inscribe. They constitute the scribes of eternity. With writing instruments and scrolls of radiance, they record each human existence, each happiness and sorrow, each birth and death. The angel Uriel displays to Enoch these documentation and communicates to him, "Nothing that transpires on earth remains concealed from these books." This is not solely about judgment. It concerns memory, a universe that remembers all things. In one remarkable passage, Enoch himself transforms into a scribe. The angels present him a writing instrument and request him to inscribe what he has witnessed. For days, he remains seated and inscribes, completing scroll following scroll with visions and cautions. This image of Enoch as heavenly scribe adhered in the consciousness of his audiences. It explains why subsequent writings identify him as Enoch the scribe, why Jewish tradition names him as the originator of writing itself. However, there exists more to these books than merely documentation of the past. Enoch observes books that communicate what remains yet to arrive. Books that chart the complete span of human history from initial day to final sunset. One book catalogues those who will be rescued in the ultimate days. Another tallies each particle of dust that will consume in the flames of judgment. Another follows each tear that will be erased when all is rendered new. Consider how this concept influenced those who followed. When the Psalms communicate of your book, in which all my days were documented, they are communicating Enoch's language. When Daniel observes books opened at the ultimate judgment, he is observing what Enoch observed. And when Revelation narrates of a book of existence where the names of the rescued are inscribed, it constructs upon this identical vision. A universe where nothing is lost, where every existence matters sufficiently to be inscribed. For those who initially encountered Enoch, this proved both comfort and caution. Comfort that their existences, frequently difficult and brief and appearing insignificant, were recorded by heaven itself. Caution that nothing they performed could be concealed from these cosmic documentation. In periods when literacy remained rare, the concept of heavenly books possessed particular authority. If monarchs maintained documentation of their reigns, why not the divine? If temples followed offerings and obligations, why not heaven itself? However, these books are not solely about following or judging. They concern significance. They communicate to us that our narratives matter, that they fit into a larger narrative that spans all of time and space. In an existence that frequently feels arbitrary and harsh, Enoch provides a vision of cosmic organization. Everything possesses its position in the mighty books of heaven. Every existence constitutes a chapter in the narrative the divine is inscribing across the stars. And though we may never observe these books with mortal vision, Enoch communicates to us they exist there, waiting, documenting, remembering until the day when all books are opened and all narratives discover their conclusion and their novel beginning. The fractured universe, the terrain shifts beneath your feet. The heavens darken at midday, rivers evaporate or overflow their boundaries. In Enoch's world, these were not merely natural occurrences. They were indicators of a universe displaced from alignment, a creation straining beneath the burden of transgression. Enoch perceives the world as more than merely matter and energy. It constitutes a living entity bound by moral principles as much as physical ones. When those moral principles are violated, the absolute rocks and waters experience the anguish. In his visions, angels display to him how human transgression radiates outward through creation. The forbidden knowledge instructed by the Watchers does not solely corrupt human hearts. It tears at the fabric of reality itself. Observe communicates his angelic guide, indicating to a mountain divided by a profound crack. This is where heaven's organization was initially fractured, where angels departed their appropriate position. The earth itself provides testimony to their transgression. Enoch perceives earthquakes not as movements of tectonic plates, but as the groans of a wounded world. Floods constitute earth's tears, shed for the blood spilled upon her surface. Storms constitute creation's fury against those who damage it. This is not merely ancient superstition. It constitutes a profound comprehension of how all things connect, how moral and physical reality intertwine together like strands of a cord. Pull one and the other shifts as well. When the Watchers instruct humans to fashion weapons, to extract the earth for metals, to consume and sever and shape the natural world for their own purposes, they are not merely transferring skills. They are instructing disrespect for the organization laid down at creation's dawn, and the world experiences it. Mountains tremble, seas ascend, the absolute stars consume with fury at what has been performed below. The earth has become tilted upon its axis. One angel communicates to Enoch. A stunning insight for an ancient writing, as if the author perceived how the planet's tilt affects all existence upon it. However, in Enoch's vision, this tilt is not solely physical, it constitutes moral. The world has been knocked off center by the burden of transgression. Rain descends outside of season. Crops are unsuccessful. Animals turn upon humans and upon each other. The orderly cycles of nature deteriorate as disorder spreads from human hearts to the wider world. In one remarkable passage, Enoch observes a future where the moon modifies its trajectory. The sun ascends where it should descend. The entire cosmos appears to operate backward, as if in protest against what is transpiring on Earth. This vision of a fractured universe influences how subsequent writers perceive the world. When Isaiah communicates of a novel heaven and novel earth, he is constructing upon Enoch's sense that this world has been fractured and requires repair. When Jesus communicates of signs in the sun, moon, and stars before his return, he relies upon this identical tradition, a universe where physical signs indicate spiritual truths, where heaven and earth mirror each other. However, Enoch does not leave us with solely a fractured world. He provides hope that what has been fractured will be rendered whole. The identical divine who established the stars in their trajectories can reset them. The identical hand that fashioned the mountains can mend their scars. In the conclusion, he communicates to us, there will be novel heavens where the stars never descend, and a novel earth that produces fruit without curse or contamination. A world rendered correct once more, a cosmos mended from center to boundary. Until that day, we exist in the rupture between what was and what will be, in a universe still groaning, as Paul would subsequently express it, like a woman in the pains of childbirth, waiting for its moment of healing to arrive. Mysteries of weather, mountains, and trees. Rain descends from clouds, wind flows from the north, trees mature from seeds. Straightforward facts we accept as given. However, in Enoch's world, these natural processes contain deeper mysteries. Behind each droplet of rain, each gust of wind, each budding leaf, stood angels, executing divine intention. The Book of Enoch opens a portal into a world animated with intention, where nothing transpires through random chance, where nature itself communicates a language, if only we understood how to attend. As Enoch travels with his angel guides, they display to him the storage facilities of snow and hail, waiting to be released in their seasons. They indicate to caverns, where the winds repose until summoned forth. They disclose the invisible spirits that tend each growing thing. Observe those clouds, his guide inquires, indicating to the horizon. They are not merely water vapor. They constitute living beings, executing assignments designated to them before measured time commenced. This is not primitive knowledge. It constitutes a method of perceiving the sacred in the ordinary. The divine hand at labor in each moment of our daily existences. Enoch learns about mountains, how they are not merely accumulations of rock, but columns that support the heavens. Certain mountains in his vision reach all the pathway to heaven's gateway. Others indicate the boundaries of human territories, established as borders no one should traverse. One mountain of crystal radiates with radiance day and night. Another consumes with never-ending fire. A third flows with sweet nectar that nourishes the flowers of the field. Each possesses its intention, its role in the cosmic dance. Trees as well possess particular significance in Enoch's vision. He observes a mighty tree whose fruit provides understanding to those who consume it, echoing Eden's forbidden tree. He learns how each variety of wood possesses its own spirit, its own voice that produces melody in the wind. In one remarkable passage, Enoch arrives to a mountain garden where fragrant trees mature. Their scent surpasses all fragrance, their leaves never descend, their fruit never deteriorates. This is not merely a pleasant image. It constitutes a glimpse of the world as it should be, as it once was, as it will be once more. Weather patterns disclose heaven's dispositions in Enoch's cosmology. Thunder is not merely sound waves. It constitutes the voice of angels summoning to each other across the heavens. Lightning is not merely electrical discharge. It constitutes the flash of celestial swords as heaven's armies drill for the ultimate battle. When rain descends in its appropriate season, it constitutes an indication of divine pleasure with human actions. When drought arrives, it is because the rain angels restrain their gifts in sorrow over human transgression. This perspective of nature influenced how people interpreted the world for centuries. When Jesus calms a storm with a command, his followers perceive more than merely control over weather. They perceive him communicating the language of those weather angels, commanding the spirits of wind and wave. When Revelation pictures trees whose leaves serve for the healing of the nations, it relies upon Enoch's sense that plants possess roles beyond merely nourishing and sheltering us. They constitute partners in the mighty work of mending what has been fractured. This is not about worshipping nature. It concerns perceiving beyond nature to its source. About following each raindrop, each breeze, each leaf back to the hand that initially set the world in motion. In our world of weather satellites and botanical encyclopedias, we can overlook what Enoch observed: the marvel behind the knowledge, the why behind the how, the face behind the mask of physical principle. Gaze outside your window. That tree extending its branches toward the heavens, that cloud casting its shadow upon the hills, that wind rustling through the vegetation. In Enoch's world, they constitute more than what they appear. They constitute pages in the mighty book of creation, narrating a story to those with vision to perceive and ears to attend. Time, destiny, and the patterns of history. Time flows like a river. Yet where does that river commence? Where does it conclude? And who charted its trajectory from source to sea? These constitute the questions Enoch poses as angels guide him through heaven's chambers. In one chamber, he observes enormous rotating wheels of radiance, cosmic clocks indicating the ages of Earth. In another, he discovers books where each day of human history is inscribed from initial light to ultimate sunset. Time is not what you believe, his guide communicates to him. It does not solely progress forward. It progresses in patterns like the seasons, like the stars in their trajectories. What has been will be once more. What is arriving has already been. This perspective of time influences all of Enoch's visions. He does not solely observe the past or glimpse the future. He observes how they are bound together, how they echo and mirror each other across the immense spans of history. Through angelic vision, Enoch learns that time possesses texture. Certain moments are thin, where heaven and earth barely make contact. Others are thick with significance, where the veil between worlds becomes so thin that angels walk among mortals. He observes how human history separates into ages, not through random chance, but through design. Each age possesses its intention, its lesson, to instruct its portion in the mighty story the divine is narrating through time. Initially arrived the age of creation and marvel, when the world was novel and humans walked with the divine in the cool of the day. Then the age of growth and descent, when knowledge multiplied yet understanding faltered. Next arrived Enoch's own age, a period of both mighty corruption and mighty revelation, when angels descended, yet heaven opened its mysteries to those with vision to perceive. Beyond his own period, Enoch observes the age of purifying flood, then the age of covenant and instruction, then periods of monarchs and prophets, of banishment and return, and far beyond those ages, he glimpses what remains to arrive. An age when heaven's monarch walks earth in mortal form, an age of spreading radiance, an age of increasing darkness, and ultimately an age of judgment and renewal, when time's river reaches the sea of eternity. This is not solely about charting history. It concerns discovering significance in its patterns, about perceiving that nothing transpires through random chance, that all things labor together toward a conclusion only heaven can fully perceive. In one remarkable vision, Enoch observes time as an immense loom. Angels interweave the threads of human existences and selections into a tapestry whose complete pattern only the divine can observe. We glimpse solely our small corner of the design, yet each thread matters. Each existence adds color and texture to the whole. This vision of time, as both established and flowing, influences how subsequent writers perceive history. When Daniel charts the ascent and descent of empires, he constructs upon Enoch's cosmic timetable. When John, in Revelation, communicates of what must soon transpire, he stands in this identical tradition. For those who initially encountered Enoch, this perspective of time brought both comfort and challenge. Comfort that their brief existences fit into a larger design. Challenge to exist as if each moment matters to heaven itself. In an existence that frequently felt arbitrary and harsh, Enoch provided a glimpse behind the curtain, a sense that history's appearing disorder possessed a deeper organization. That time's river, for all its twists and rapids, flows toward a sea already known to the divine. Today, we tend to perceive time as either an arrow shooting forward or a cycle perpetually repeating. Enoch proposes it constitutes both, a spiral progressing both forward and around, each rotation both novel and familiar, each age both fresh and echoing what arrived before. Gaze back at your own existence, at the patterns that repeat, at the moments that transformed everything. In Enoch's perspective, none of it is arbitrary. All of it matters. All of it interweaves into a narrative larger than any singular existence, yet incomplete without each one. Time flows onward. The wheels of heaven rotate. The loom of ages interweaves its pattern thread by thread, existence by existence. And though we perceive through a glass darkly now, Enoch promises a day when time's complete significance will stand disclosed, when we will perceive not solely our small portion of the pattern, but the complete tapestry in all its magnificence, the Epistle of Enoch. The atmosphere becomes still as we transition to the ultimate section of Enoch's ancient writing. Here, within these worn pages, the old patriarch communicates directly to us across time. Not as a mystical observer of heaven's chambers, but as a father concerned for his children's future. The epistle indicates a transition in tone. Gone are the untamed visions of stars and angels. Instead, we discover a man observing the world around him with clear vision. His language carries burden, urgent cautions about the pathway ahead. Enoch communicates of two pathways, the route of goodness and the road to destruction. He does not soften language about what awaits those who select poorly. The corrupt, he cautions, will discover no tranquility. Their names eliminated, their works forgotten. It constitutes not a threat, but a sorrowful truth he has glimpsed beyond the veil. Yet hope flows through his language as well. The righteous will discover their compensation. Radiance waits for those who walk straight pathways. In the conclusion, he communicates to us truth triumphs. What renders the epistle distinctive is how it connects two worlds. It communicates both to Enoch's period and to ours. The cautions about greed, falsehoods, and the abuse of authority still resonate truthfully today. Scholars observe how the epistle appears drawn from a deeper past. Its style echoes the ancient wisdom books, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes. Yet it reaches forward as well, with hints of what would subsequently bloom in Christian and Jewish ethics. Enoch's language to his son Methuselah feels strangely modern. Place these words to your heart. Recognize that every work of humanity is measured. In our age of quick solutions and faster profits, his summons to think beyond our brief existences cuts profoundly. The epistle relies upon older origins. Within it, we hear traces of the two pathways instruction, a moral route common across ancient civilizations. Select existence or death, radiance or shadow, the pathway upward or the pathway downward. The selection, Enoch communicates, is always ours. What strikes audiences most is the raw emotion. This is not dry preaching. It constitutes a man who has perceived through the veil of time, observed the mighty wheel of years rotate, and returned shaken by what awaits. His voice trembles with the burden of knowing excessively. The writing flows with vivid cautions. Woe to those who construct their dwellings on falsehoods. Woe to those who distort justice. Woe to those who deceive their neighbors. Each woe lands like a hammer upon stone, echoing across centuries. Between these stark cautions lie gems of hope. The pathways of peace shall be recognized to the righteous. Understanding flows like water for those who thirst for truth. These are not merely pleasant language. They constitute lifelines thrown to audiences drowning in troubled periods. When Enoch communicates of the books of the living, he accesses a deep well of human longing. We all desire to matter, to be remembered. The epistle promises that righteous actions are not lost in time's flow. They are inscribed, tallied, and preserved. In its ultimate passages, the epistle transitions focus from personal righteousness to cosmic justice, from daily selections to ultimate outcomes. The scope expands, and suddenly we return in that mighty Enochian vista where human existences unfold against the backdrop of eternity. This is not merely another sermon. It constitutes the ultimate testament of a man who walked with the divine and survived to narrate about it. The week of ages, time unfolds like a scroll in Enoch's hands, not as perpetual moments ticking past, but as a narrative with clear chapters. A week of ages, 7 mighty days in the existence of the world. This vision of time influenced how innumerable believers would perceive history, not as arbitrary occurrences, but as a design unfolding, step by step, toward an ultimate objective. The initial day in this cosmic week, creation blossoms. Adam walks the garden. The world is young and filled with hope. The second day, transgression enters the narrative. The bright commencement dims. Humans turn from divine pathway and discover thorns where flowers once matured. The third day, Abraham hears a voice in the darkness, a promise established, a people selected to carry radiance through shadowed ages. The covenant establishes roots. The fourth day, Moses guides slaves to freedom, instruction etched in stone. The desert transforms into a classroom where a nation learns to walk with the divine. The fifth day, monarchs and prophets' temples ascend. The selected people discover their voice, their territory, their destiny. However, shadows accumulate at the boundaries. The sixth day, banishment and return. Difficult lessons learned in foreign territories. The temple reconstructed, yet smaller now. Hope blended with sorrow, waiting for what arrives next. The seventh day, rest and compensation for those who maintained faith. A Sabbath for the world, following its extended labor. In certain interpretations, this transforms into the Messianic age, when wrongs are corrected and peace flows like a river. However, Enoch's vision does not halt there. Beyond the 7 days waits an 8th day, a novel commencement outside of time itself, the eternal morning following the extended week of history. This pattern echoes through religious thinking. We discover it in Jewish mysticism, in early Christian writings, in medieval monks charting time's flow. Each borrows from Enoch's powerful image, history as a week with intention. For the anxious listener in ancient periods, this provided comfort. The troubles of today fit within a larger design. The narrative possesses an author. The anguish makes sense within the plot. Each age in Enoch's week carries its own character, its own assignment. No era persists eternally. Transformation arrives, prepared or not, yet through it all flows a golden thread of significance. History is not solely one thing following another. It constitutes a narrative progressing toward its ultimate chapter. Modern audiences might smile at such neat packaging of time's complexity. Our perspective of history tends toward chaos theory. Small causes, immense effects, no master design. Yet something within us continues to respond to Enoch's week of ages. We desire time to make sense. We hope our chapter matters to the larger narrative. What proves most remarkable is how this ancient writing comprehended so much correctly. It perceived history as both cyclical and progressing forward. It comprehended that eras possess character, defining occurrences that shape everything following. It recognized that time feels different, depending where you stand in its flow. When Enoch inscribes that one day with the divine is as 1,000 years, he accesses time's unusual elasticity. Clock time versus soul time, the gap between how we measure moments and how we experience them. In shadowed periods, the week of ages brought hope. This as well shall pass. In proud periods, it brought humility. Your day constitutes solely one of 7. For a people existing beneath foreign dominance, Romans, Babylonians, Greeks, the communication resonated clearly. Tyrants constitute merely a passing cloud in the divine's extended heavens. The 7 Ages framework continues influencing how many perceive the world today. From doomsday prophets tallying signs to ordinary people sensing an era's conclusion. We borrow Enoch's lens without recognizing its source. Perhaps most powerful is the promise of the 8th day. Following all the striving, a novel start awaits. Following the complete week of human struggle arrives something else entirely, something superior to mere rest. A novel creation, ultimate destiny of souls. What occurs at the moment of our death? This question weighs on every human soul. In the visions granted to Enoch, dying doesn't mark our conclusion, rather it opens a doorway. His revelation spreads across striking scenes. Spirits assembled in enormous waiting chambers, suspended until that ultimate day arrives. There isn't one single destiny awaiting everyone, but rather numerous chambers within death's dwelling. The virtuous discover gentle repose, inside rooms filled with radiance. Their spirits shine bright, resembling lamps glowing within a peaceful space. They rest in tranquility, cradled by soft shadows, much like seeds, waiting beneath soil before springtime comes. For different souls, though, darker corridors lie in wait. The spirits of those who lived wickedly find no rest whatsoever. They drift through dim passages, already sampling the judgment approaching them. Not yet torment, not quite yet, but rather the increasing burden of reality pressing down. Situated between these distinct destinies exist infinite gradations of uncertainty. Individuals who faltered yet made efforts. Individuals who committed wrongs yet sought to repair them. Individuals who never encountered wisdom's voice at all. For these particular souls, Enoch observes intermediate chambers, spaces designated for waiting and development. What renders Enoch's revelation so remarkable is how it weaves together fairness and compassion. Nobody sidesteps the measuring scales of reality. Still, no destiny becomes permanent until that concluding day breaks. Even within death's corridors, hope continues to linger. The writing speaks of profound valleys where spirits remain, awaiting final judgment, of records where every action gets documented, of celestial beings who escort the recently departed toward their appropriate destination. These pictures would eventually influence how innumerable people imagine existence after death. Enoch doesn't simply inform us about what follows our passing. He reveals to us why our present actions carry significance. Every decision we execute adds substance to our spirit. Every act of compassion or act of harm molds who we'll become once our physical form falls away. For those reading in ancient times, this wasn't merely abstract religious philosophy. It carried urgent importance. Your fleeting existence projects an extensive shadow. Your decisions resonate far beyond the burial ground. Nothing gets misplaced or overlooked by the eyes observing from outside of time. The spirit's voyage doesn't conclude when death arrives. Enoch portrays an intricate procedure: examination, rest, and readiness. Certain spirits require purification, like precious metals tested by flame. Other spirits already gleam brilliantly, requiring only to await the fresh world's beginning. 4 dwelling locations emerge within Enoch's vision, one designated for the righteous who've passed, luminous as the midday sun. One designated for wrongdoers who escaped earthly consequences, a location of settling accounts. One designated for spirits whose physical forms were refused, appropriate interment, a particular mercy extended toward them. And one designated for individuals who straddled the boundary separating virtue from wickedness, neither completely lost nor completely rescued. Contemporary readers might recognize similarities to near-death testimonies within Enoch's description. The illumination, the life examination, the impression of progressing through distinct phases. Though composed thousands of years in the past, something within his revelation continues, ringing authentic for individuals who've caught glimpses beyond the curtain. What distinguishes Enoch from additional ancient writings is his emphasis on universal fairness. Nobody escapes accountability for anything. No sufferer remains unacknowledged. The cosmos itself maintains the records, tallies every teardrop, documents every demonstration of bravery or brutality. When he describes the great day of judgment, Enoch creates a startling picture. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow merge together. Every spirit who ever drew breath stands unified as the records get unsealed. No hidden matters persist. Reality blazes like the sun at noon, too brilliant to dispute. Still, this isn't solely about retribution. The ultimate destiny of spirits involves metamorphosis. The deserving transform into celestial lights, radiant entities within a fresh cosmos. The universe itself undergoes renewal. Suffering and agony exist no more. The prolonged separation concludes for individuals who experienced unjust treatment during their lives. This revelation provided profound consolation. Your suffering held meaning. Your tears received attention. Fairness arrives. If not during this existence, then in what lies beyond. The cosmos ultimately bends toward equilibrium in the conclusion. And for individuals living pleasant existences through causing others misery, Enoch's statements provoked dread. The scales would find balance. The concealed would face exposure. No riches or authority would protect them from reality's illumination. What lies beyond that monumental day? Enoch catches sight of it, yet struggles to locate adequate words. A realm reconstructed, physical forms restored yet transformed. No additional hunger, no additional fear. The barrier separating paradise from our world finally torn away. Within these ancient writings, death surrenders its power to wound. Not because it lacks reality, it remains quite real, but because it isn't the conclusion. The spirit's voyage persists. The narrative continues onward, advancing toward a chapter so magnificent it defies complete imagination. Ethical teachings and cosmic law. Within the tranquil interval between magnificent revelations, Enoch instructs us on proper living. His moral guidance isn't merely regulations for appropriate conduct. They represent keys unlocking cosmic balance. For Enoch, correct action springs from correct perception. Once you glimpse how the cosmos genuinely operates, you cannot help except align with its profound rhythms. Wisdom transcends merely understanding what actions to take. It encompasses grasping why those actions carry importance. Virtue and wickedness aren't simply human concepts within Enoch's realm. They're interwoven into creation's actual fabric. The identical laws guiding celestial bodies through their paths establish the course for human souls. As matters stand above, so they mirror below. Unlike rigid legal systems, Enoch's ethics throb with cosmic vitality. Practice truthfulness, not simply because falsehoods damage others, but because honesty represents creation's actual breath. Demonstrate compassion, not simply to behave kindly, but because mercy reflects the cosmos's fundamental blueprint. Travel along direct pathways, Enoch insists, plain words that penetrate to the core. No distortion, no cunning manipulations, no obscuring of significance, simply pure, transparent, living within daylight's complete radiance. His cautions against excessive desire resonate particularly powerfully. Individuals who accumulate riches while fellow humans experience starvation violate more than communal regulations. They fracture the actual structure of existence. The cosmos itself resists such disproportion. Fairness carries deep significance in Enoch's instruction. Not unseeing fairness or frigid law, but active equilibrium. When we correct injustices and elevate the downtrodden, we don't merely enhance civilization, we assist in restoring the injured cosmos. Enoch's ethics begin with perceiving accurately. Observe the creations of the divine, he instructs. Notice how everything fulfills its function. From this accurate perception emerges correct action. We participate in the dance already flowing through existence. What makes his instruction unique is how it connects everyday decisions to cosmic consequences. That cutting remark you uttered, it spreads outward, reaching distant stars. The compassion you extended to a stranger, it contributes to repairing the fractured realm. For ancient readers existing beneath harsh empires, this perspective delivered hope. Tyrants might appear entirely powerful today, yet they struggle against the cosmos's natural grain. Their downfall isn't merely desired. It's inscribed among the celestial bodies. Enoch doesn't simply instruct us toward goodness. He displays a realm where virtue holds meaning, where moral excellence isn't simply pleasant, but essential, synchronized with reality's most fundamental currents. When he addresses compensation and consequences, it's not regarding bribes or intimidation. It's regarding natural results. Exist against the cosmos's grain and fragments will locate you. Travel with its authentic current, and even difficult periods cannot submerge you. His statements on material wealth penetrate deeply. Misery upon you, who obtain silver and precious metals through unjust methods. You declare, we've accumulated riches and possess abundance and hold everything we desire, yet you contain no virtuous quality within you. In our era of expanding divisions between prosperous and impoverished, these ancient statements continue burning brightly. Enoch addresses eyes frequently. Eyes perceiving truthfully, eyes observing us, eyes receptive to amazement. Maintain your gaze on the heavens, he encourages, not exclusively on the path beneath your feet. Authentic ethics emerges from expanded perception. For individuals crushed beneath existence's burden, Enoch presents unusual consolation. Your anguish isn't arbitrary. Your sorrows carry significance. The identical divine presence who tallies stars, tallies the droplets of your suffering. Nothing disappears from the cosmic accounting. His statements on authority continue challenging. Misery upon you, powerful individuals who through force oppress the virtuous. The day marking your destruction approaches. No tyrant endures eternally. No empire remains permanent. Authority that inflicts harm on others contains the elements of its own collapse. At its center, Enoch's ethics flow from connection. Correct living emerges from correct loving, of the divine, of fellow humans, of the formed world. We prosper when we perceive accurately how interconnected everything truly is. These instructions influenced innumerable existences throughout the passage of time. Jewish believers, Christian followers, Muslim adherents, all discovered wisdom within these ancient statements about how to navigate skillfully through an intricate realm. Perhaps most remarkable is how Enoch connects minor decisions to cosmic results. That instant of honesty or deception, compassion or brutality. It's not exclusively a personal concern. It's you either participating in or resisting the cosmos's profound harmony. In our era of fractured systems and worldwide difficulties, Enoch's revelation presents unusual hope. Correct action carries more significance than we comprehend. Each fair decision assists in healing not simply our societies, but reality itself. Enoch and the Essenes. Within the arid hills beside the Dead Sea, a community established itself. The Essenes, individuals pursuing truth who abandoned city existence. In their isolated encampments, Enoch's statements discovered receptive ears and welcoming hearts. When shepherd youths discovered ancient caverns in 1947, they possessed no awareness they'd transform history. The Dead Sea Scrolls, the most ancient biblical writings ever recovered, unveiled how profoundly Enoch's revelations influenced these desert inhabitants. The Qumran community existed while awaiting the conclusion. They perceived themselves as the ultimate faithful remnant within a corrupted realm. Their everyday existence centered on cleanliness, supplication, and readiness for the final days, themes echoing throughout Enoch's writings. Among the scrolls, fragments of Enoch appeared repeated rounds, not simply one or two copies, but numerous ones. Evidence that this forbidden volume occupied honored placement within their concealed libraries. What attracted the Essenes toward Enoch's statements? Perhaps his stark separation between illumination and shadow pathways matched their own absolute perspective. They similarly perceived the realm as a battlefield, separating virtuous and wicked forces. The community's renowned war scroll interprets like Enoch's visions brought to life. Celestial beings and malevolent spirits clash, the children of radiance confront the children of darkness, and universal fairness ultimately arrives. For the Essenes, these weren't distant legends, but tomorrow's reality. Their everyday existence pursued rhythms Enoch would approve. Dawn supplications, synchronized with celestial patterns, communal meals as sacred performances, labor and learning as worship, the cosmos and the commune in flawless synchronization. Like Enoch, the Essenes maintained careful tracking of time. Their calendar pursued the sun, not the moon, a crucial distinction from temple customs in Jerusalem. This solar concentration connects directly backward toward Enoch's astronomical volume with its exact sun gates and celestial cycles. The Essenes perceived themselves as the authentic priesthood. The Jerusalem temple had become contaminated. They maintained that genuine worship occurred within their desert encampment, where celestial beings participated in their prayers. This perspective mirrors Enoch's own conflicted sentiments about the temple arrangement. Among the collective's fundamental convictions, an approaching judgment day, a messianic figure who would initiate a fresh age, and the concept that humans could unite with celestial beings in heavenly worship. Each reflects major themes from the volume of Enoch. What renders this connection so crucial is chronology. The Essenes flourished immediately before and throughout Jesus' period. Their Enoch-influenced worldview constituted part of the fertile ground from which early Christianity would emerge. Did Jesus possess knowledge of Enoch's compositions? We cannot determine with certainty, yet he matured within a realm where these concepts flowed through numerous channels of Jewish understanding. His statements about the Son of Man, about judgment, about the age approaching all discover resonances in Enoch's ancient revelations. The Essenes weren't the exclusive ones attracted toward Enoch. Additional Jewish collectives of that period, the Pharisees, early mystics, apocalyptic preachers, all display indications of interaction with Enochian concepts. Though prohibited by certain authorities, the volume's central insights dispersed like ripples from a stone released into motionless water. What the Qumran discoveries confirm is how flexible Jewish understanding was throughout this critical interval. There existed no singular Judaism, but numerous Judaisms, each drawing from common wells, yet emphasizing distinct streams. Enoch's volume presented a profound drink for individuals thirsting for direct revelation of heaven's mysteries. For contemporary readers, the Essene connection carries deep significance. It demonstrates Enoch wasn't simply some neglected writing. It influenced actual communities, stimulated actual devotion, and assisted in framing how actual individuals perceived themselves within cosmic narrative. In their solitary desert encampment, awaiting the conclusion that never arrived as anticipated, the Essenes inhabited Enoch's revelation. They synchronized their everyday patterns with heaven's structure. They maintained faith while the realm pursued its own course. They trusted in a fairness beyond what human sight could observe. When Romans demolished their settlement around 70 CE, the community disappeared. Yet, they'd already concealed their valuable scrolls within nearby caverns, including their copies of Enoch, as though they recognized future generations would require these ancient statements, these glimpses beyond the curtain. Without awareness, they preserved vital connections in wisdom's chain. Their concealed scrolls would rest beneath desert sand for 2,000 years, awaiting shepherd youths to discover history's forgotten writings. In their disciplined existences and cosmic perception, the Essenes remind us how influential Enoch's statements were. Not simply motivating reading material, but a design for radical community. Not simply ancient legends, but pressing news from beyond the celestial bodies. Banned for a reason. Church Fathers versus Enoch. The narrative of how the volume of Enoch disappeared from Christian worship feels nearly like a detective story. A writing once cherished and referenced, now absent from sacred collections. Yet, why? Let's travel backward to those early church assemblies where men in modest robes discussed which compositions would direct the faithful. These assemblies determined what billions would eventually interpret as divine communication. Yet the volume of Enoch walked a precarious line. It addressed celestial beings who descended from paradise, imparted forbidden understanding, and reproduced with human females. These weren't minor assertions. They illustrated a picture of the divine realm that numerous individuals found disturbing. Origen, a magnificent thinker with untamed curly hair and penetrating eyes, felt concern about Enoch's exceptional assertions. He valued the volume, yet questioned if it genuinely originated from the ancient patriarch. His uncertainties expanded like ripples across still water. Meanwhile, Tertullian, an intense North African with a lawyer's intellect, protected Enoch. He contended that Noah could have safeguarded it through the deluge. How could we dismiss what addresses Christ? He questioned his fellow believers. Yet his voice would not prevail on that day. As the 3rd century arrived, the fractures in Enoch's position expanded wider. Bishop Julius Africanus identified difficulties with its chronology. How could Enoch have composed regarding occurrences that transpired following the deluge? The questions accumulated like autumn foliage. By the period of Augustine and Jerome, Enoch had descended from favor. These towering church fathers secured its destiny. Jerome, the Bible translator with a scholar's serious expression, proclaimed it apocryphal. With that solitary word, Enoch was thrust outside the circle of confidence. What frightened them most? Perhaps it was Enoch's vivid narratives of descended celestial beings. This risked portraying the divine as one who couldn't govern his heavenly court. Or perhaps it was the volume's exact cosmic calendar, which certain individuals perceived as meddling in forbidden star divination. The Watcher narrative troubled numerous leaders. It implied celestial beings could select wickedness and reproduce with humans. Concepts that obscured the boundary separating paradise from our world in methods that felt hazardous. Superior to maintain such notions at arm's distance. Enoch similarly addressed a Messiah in terminology that didn't consistently match developing Christian doctrine. As church instructions about Jesus expanded more specified, Enoch's Son of Man revelations appeared too flexible, too receptive to incorrect interpretations. Then arrived another difficulty: Gnostic collectives. These spiritual pursuers cherished concealed understanding and secret volumes. When they welcomed Enoch, it raised warning signals. Church fathers feared its mystical revelations might nourish what they perceived as hazardous thinking. Picture a council chamber in the early church. Oil lamps project extended shadows as men debate. This volume addresses truthfully of celestial beings, states one. Yet it contains matters we cannot confirm, responds another. What of its unusual calendar, inquires a third. The affirmative gestures around the chamber secure Enoch's removal. By the period of the Council of Laodicea in 363 CE, the determination was transparent. Enoch would not participate in the biblical canon. The authorized catalogue of approved volumes would not incorporate this ancient writing that once motivated so numerous individuals. In the Eastern Church, John of Damascus firmly positioned Enoch among compositions to shun. In the West, Pope Gelasius issued a decree in 495 CE cataloguing volumes Christians should not interpret. Enoch stood among them, now formally prohibited. Exclusively in a remote highland kingdom did Enoch endure. Ethiopia's church, separated by mountains and wastelands, maintained the volume among its sacred compositions. Like a rare blossom growing in a concealed valley, Enoch flourished there while withering elsewhere. What if the church fathers had been incorrect? What if they discarded divine reality? These questions haunted certain believers through the ages. Concealed communities occasionally whispered Enoch's statements, maintaining its concepts alive like an underground stream. Jewish scholars possessed their own justifications for setting Enoch aside. As they labored to safeguard their faith following the temple's destruction, they concentrated on core writings. Enoch, with its untamed celestial beings and cosmic voyages, felt excessively mystical, excessively unusual for troubled periods. We cannot determine if the Church Fathers genuinely interpreted Enoch with receptive minds. Did they dismiss it too hastily? Were they correct to feel concern about its unusual assertions? The response depends on whether you perceive them as wise protectors or fearful gatekeepers. In the conclusion, Enoch's prohibition informs us something significant about how faiths develop. They must determine which voices to maintain and which to silence. They construct barriers around their central convictions to safeguard them from concepts that might distort or fracture them. When James Bruce transported Enoch backward to Europe in 1773, he reopened questions long resolved. The forbidden volume returned like a ghost from the past, requesting to be acknowledged again. Its extended silence had concluded. Now contemporary readers would confront the identical decision as those ancient church fathers, to welcome Enoch's unusual revelations or to turn away. Enoch and the origins of angels and demons. Picture a realm where celestial beings travel among us. Not simply any celestial beings, but descended ones who instruct humans the crafts of warfare, cosmetics, and supernatural arts. This isn't from a fantasy narrative. It's from the volume of Enoch, the ancient writing that influenced how we think about the entities separating paradise from our world. Before Enoch, celestial beings were primarily messengers. They arrived with information, then departed. Yet, in Enoch's writings, they acquired rich, intricate existences. They possessed names, positions, and even the capacity to select wickedness. This transformed everything. Enoch gave us Semjaza, who directed the rebel celestial beings. Azazel, who instructed men to create weapons and women to apply their faces. Barachiel, who disclosed the mysteries of lightning. Each possessed a function, a capacity, a narrative. Through these narratives, celestial beings ceased being remote lights and became characters we could nearly touch. The descended ones, the Watchers, transformed how we perceive temptation. They weren't deceived like Adam and Eve. They selected their pathway with open sight, exchanging paradise for human contact. Their longing for women drew them from the celestial bodies to the dust. This narrative addresses something profound within us, the attraction separating duty from desire. When the Watchers reproduced with human women, they produced the Nephilim, giants who consumed everything until the earth cried outward. These became the template for monsters in innumerable narratives. Every giant in folklore, every creature excessively large for its realm, owes something to Enoch's revelation. Yet what of demons? Enoch informs us they are the spirits of deceased Nephilim, captured between realms. Not descended celestial beings, but their children's ghosts. This solitary concept planted elements that would develop into convictions that haunt us still. That demons pursue bodies to possess, that they generate illness, that they whisper falsehoods into willing ears. Observe how Enoch's celestial hierarchy dispersed. 7 archangels stand before the divine throne. Beneath them, positions of cherubim, seraphim, ophanim. This cosmic structure filtered into Jewish mysticism, then Christian artistic expression, then contemporary fantasy narratives and films. When you observe celestial beings positioned in tiers in any narrative, you're observing Enoch's shadow. The 4 mighty ones, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel, step from Enoch's writings as divine warriors. Michael, the military commander, Gabriel, the messenger, Raphael, the healer, Uriel, the observer of heavenly illuminations. Each carries a name concluding in El, of the divine. Each fulfills a cosmic function that later faiths would welcome and expand. Islam absorbed these celestial beings into its own tradition. The Quran addresses Gabriel and Michael, Michael, the celestial being of death, the carriers of the divine throne, all echo Enoch's heavenly assembly. Though Enoch himself was not canonical in Islam, his celestial beings flew freely into its sacred narratives. In medieval periods, celestial fascination expanded like wild blossoms following rain. Elaborate systems positioned the heavenly entities, often drawing from Enoch's foundation. Pseudo-Dionysius produced a 9-fold hierarchy that influenced Christian thinking for centuries. Artists illustrated clouds thick with winged creatures. All because an ancient writing once named the celestial bodies. The volume of Enoch didn't simply name celestial beings, it displayed their descent. And in that descent, it produced a pattern for all subsequent narratives of pride before a crash. Satan's rebellion in Milton's Paradise Lost owes much to how Enoch portrayed the Watcher's decision to abandon heaven behind. Jewish mysticism drank profoundly from Enoch's well. Kabbalists mapped a cosmos filled with divine entities, using Enoch as one of their guides through heavenly realms. The Zohar, that magnificent flow of Jewish mystic understanding, carries currents that commenced in Enoch's stream. When early Christian monks ventured to the desert to battle demons, they carried concepts born in Enoch's writings. The demons they confronted, lustful, deceptive, hungry for bodies to inhabit, matched what Enoch had portrayed centuries before. Every exorcism ritual, every supplication against wicked spirits resonates with his ancient statements. Observe our contemporary legends. The descended celestial being is everywhere, From comic publications to television programs, from narratives to video games, magnificent entities who selected darkness populate our narratives. They seduce, they instruct forbidden matters, they long for what they lost. Each one carries a spark from Enoch's first descended ones. Even UFO convictions draw from this. When individuals claim aliens reproduced with humans to produce hybrid entities, they're narrating the Watcher narrative in fresh clothing. The ancient narrative wears the garment of science fiction, yet its bones remain identical. Guardian celestial beings observing over children, demons testing saints, heavenly conflicts spilling onto our world. All these pictures that fill our artistic expression and supplications possess roots in Enoch's fertile soil. We address his language of celestial beings and demons without recognizing it. What power this forbidden volume held! Maintained from official worship, it still influenced how billions would picture the unseen realm. Like water flowing underground, Enoch's celestial beings and demons seeped into religious understanding everywhere. They discovered an opening. And now, as contemporary readers rediscover this ancient writing, its celestial beings and demons fly again. They discover fresh homes in narratives, films, and games. They spark fresh questions about what lies beyond our sight. Though prohibited, though concealed, Enoch's revelation of the realms, separating realms, never genuinely departed us. It waited like the celestial bodies for night to descend so it could shine again. The volume of Enoch and modern myth. Ancient statements often discover fresh existence in unexpected locations. The volume of Enoch, once interpreted by prophets and saints, now fuels internet forums and late-night radio programs. Its unusual narratives of descended celestial beings and cosmic mysteries address our contemporary hunger for concealed reality. When James Bruce transported the first complete Enoch, writing to Europe in the 1700s, he couldn't have recognized how it would flourish in contemporary soil. Today, this ancient volume feeds a garden of fresh convictions, some magnificent, some untamed, some dark as midnight. Listen to talk radio on a tranquil night. You might hear callers address the Nephilim, those celestial human hybrids from Enoch's writings. In their contemporary narration, these entities weren't demolished in Noah's deluge. They exist among us still, pulling strings from the shadows. Ancient writing becomes contemporary conspiracy with just a few altered statements. UFO researchers indicate toward Enoch with knowing smiles. His heavenly voyage carried aloft by celestial beings to observe the cosmos sounds to them like alien abduction. His detailed calendar and star understanding, evidence of contact with advanced entities. When Enoch composes of fiery chariots and wheels of illumination, they hear the hum of spacecraft. Ancient astronaut theories flourish from Enoch's soil. The Watchers become cosmic visitors who shared technology prematurely. Their punishment, a legend explaining why they departed. The Nephilim giants, evidence of alien genetic material. Even Enoch's disappearance, he was not for the divine. Took him, interprets to certain individuals as a permanent alien extraction. Online forums buzz with discussion of Enochian supernatural arts. Though it carries minimal connection to the actual writing, this arrangement claims to utilize celestial language from Enoch's heavenly travels. Produced by John Dee in the 1500s, it attracts seekers who maintain Enoch transported backward keys to cosmic capacity. New Age bookstores stock shelves with compositions on Enochian wisdom. Crystal healing, energy labor, and astral travel guides reference the patriarch as their source. His 7 heavens transform into chakras. His celestial tongues transform into mantras. The forbidden volume discovers fresh readers pursuing not salvation, but personal development. Doomsday prophets cherish Enoch's apocalyptic revelations. His detailed end-time scenario with its descended stars, cosmic flame, and ultimate judgment provides fuel for innumerable end-of-world predictions. Each fresh crisis transforms into an indication that Enoch's clock is ticking toward midnight. YouTube channels with millions of views explore Enochian cosmology. They map his flat earth with dome above, his gates for sun and moon, his pillars of paradise. Certain viewers don't perceive ancient legend. They perceive suppressed reality about our realm's genuine shape, concealed by contemporary science. The Nephilim skull hunters travel to South America and the Middle East pursuing giant bones. When museums display remains of individuals with elongated skulls, often the result of ancient binding customs, Enoch readers perceive evidence of celestial human offspring. Photographs spread across social media with breathless captions. Nephilim discovered. Enoch's forbidden status feeds the flames. Individuals cherish forbidden understanding. They wonder, why would the church conceal this volume unless it contained hazardous realities? The actual act of prohibition produced a mystique that contemporary spiritual seekers discover irresistible. White supremacist collectives distort Enoch's narratives for dark purpose. In their hands, the pure celestial line transforms into a substitute for racial purity. The Watcher's transgression of mixing with humans transforms into a caution against racial mixing. Ancient writing becomes contemporary hatred with terrible ease. Yet not all contemporary myth-making around Enoch is so disturbing. Comic book artists and fantasy writers draw from his fertile imagery to produce realms of amazement. His 7 archangels, his cosmic voyages, his heavenly records, all discover fresh existence in narratives that honor their source while producing something fresh. Video game designers craft digital paradises and underworlds using Enoch's blueprint. Players direct celestial beings through levels motivated by his 7 heavens. They battle demons born from his portrayals. The ancient revelation becomes virtual reality, reaching young minds that would never interpret the writing itself. Certain contemporary Christians discover in Enoch responses to biblical puzzles. Why does Jude reference him? What does Peter signify by spirits in prison? The forbidden volume fills in the accepted statement. Reading collectives assemble online, discovering in Enoch's writings a key to unlock scriptural mysteries. Jewish mystics still draw from Enoch's well. In contemporary Kabbalah, his heavenly voyage provides a map for spiritual ascent. His transformation into the celestial being, Metatron, presents hope for human transcendence. Ancient revelation becomes contemporary practice with surprising ease. Even academic circles feel Enoch's attraction. Scholars who once dismissed him now analyze his writing for clues to ancient understanding. His astronomical details assist in dating ancient occurrences. His apocalyptic revelations display how end-time thinking evolved. The forbidden volume becomes respected historical evidence. Climate activists occasionally reference Enoch's cautions. His revelation of nature rebelling against human transgression addresses contemporary environmental fears. His celestial beings weeping for a damaged earth resonates our own grief for melting ice and rising seas. Ancient concern becomes contemporary caution with striking clarity. In yoga studios and meditation retreats, guides occasionally borrow Enoch's 7-fold paradise as a visualization instrument. Each level transforms into a state of consciousness to explore. The ancient cosmic voyage becomes a pathway for inner travel. This is how legends evolve. They shed old skins and develop fresh ones. They address each generation in its own language. Enoch's unusual revelations of descended stars, cosmic mysteries, and realms beyond discover fresh voice in our age of space exploration and quantum physics. What would the ancient writer think of how we utilize his statements now? Would he recognize his revelations in our alien narratives and conspiracy theories? Perhaps he would simply acknowledge, recognizing that authentic legends never perish. They only transform their clothing to travel among us unnoticed. Enoch's long shadow. Literature, film, and pop culture. Narratives possess capacity. They sink into our minds and influence how we perceive the realm. The volume of Enoch, with its descended celestial beings, cosmic revelations, and giant offspring, has projected shadows across our culture in methods both visible and invisible. Walk into any bookstore and you'll discover shelves lined with narratives of celestial beings who selected love over paradise. Romance, narratives where winged entities descend for humans. Thrillers where ancient mysteries alter the course of history. Horror narratives with monstrous offspring born of unholy unions. Each owes a quiet debt to Enoch's forbidden writings. J.R. Tolkien knew the volume of Enoch well. His realm of Middle-earth resonates with its themes. The Astari wizards sent to direct Middle-earth mirror Enoch's watching celestial beings. The descent of Numenor recalls the Watcher's doom. The seeing stones that display distant revelations echo Enoch's heavenly windows. Even Tolkien's creation legend in the Silmarillion, with its music of the celestial beings, carries notes from Enoch's cosmic song. H.P. Lovecraft never claimed Enoch as a source. Still, the connections appear transparent. His great old ones, entities too vast for human minds to grasp, share much with Enoch's watchers. Both rest, chained beneath the ground, waiting to rise again. Both passed forbidden understanding to mankind. Both produced monstrous offspring that walked the early realm. In Lovecraft's cosmic horror, Enoch's ancient fears discover fresh voice. Milton's Paradise Lost, that epic poem of paradise, underworld, and the descent between draws heavily from the volume of Enoch. Satan's voyage through the cosmos mirrors Enoch's heavenly tour. The descended celestial being's lust for human women resonates the Watcher's transgression. Even the conflict in paradise unfolds, much as Enoch portrayed it, with rebel celestial beings thrown down by heavenly force. On screen, Enoch's shadows extend longer still. When you observe celestial beings descend in love in City of Angels or battle demons in Constantine, you're witnessing Enochian themes played out with Hollywood flair. Films like Noah and Legion borrow directly from the volume's revelation of divine judgment and monstrous offspring. The hit television program Supernatural wove Enochian lore throughout its 15 seasons. Celestial beings with distinct names and positions, a cosmic conflict spilling onto our world, forbidden understanding passed to humans. All these key plot elements flow from Enoch's spring. The program even featured an actual volume of Enoch as a plot device that could open doors separating realms. Even Superman carries traces of the Enochian legend, a being from the sky who travels among humans with capacities beyond mortal comprehension. He embodies the Watcher archetype in contemporary form. His struggle with his dual nature mirrors the celestial beings caught separating paradise and our world in Video games draw profoundly from Enoch's well. The Diablo series features descended celestial beings and their demonic offspring battling for control of a realm caught in the middle. Bayonetta fills the screen with celestial beings and demons drawn straight from mystical writings, numerous tracing backward to Enoch's portrayals. Players who have never encountered the ancient volume act out its narratives with controllers in hand. Comics and graphic narratives perhaps display Enoch's influence most transparently. Neil Gaiman's Sandman series features descended celestial beings whose narratives parallel the Watchers. Mike Mignola's Hellboy battles creatures born from unions of the divine and human. Innumerable illustrated narratives of cosmic conflicts separating paradise and underworld trace their family trees backward to Enoch's revelation. In music, Enoch's themes resound through innumerable songs. Heavy metal bands like Black Sabbath composed lyrics about the Watchers. Folk singers weave narratives of celestial beings who selected our world over sky. Even mainstream pop occasionally touches on the descent from grace that Enoch portrayed so vividly. Contemporary fantasy series like His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman draw from Enochian cosmology, multiple realms connected by thin locations, entities of illumination who rebel against divine authority. Cosmic dust with unusual capacities. All these echo elements discovered in the Forbidden Volume centuries ago. Children's fiction isn't immune to Enoch's attraction. Numerous young adult narratives feature half-celestial protagonists discovering their capacities. These Nephilim heroes, though rarely identified as such, fight in cosmic conflicts separating virtue and wickedness, just as their ancient counterparts did in Enoch's narration. Role-playing games often utilize Enochian frameworks for their realms. Dungeons and Dragons possesses planes of existence that mirror Enoch's 7 heavens. World of Darkness games feature celestial beings and demons whose hierarchies would be familiar to any Enoch scholar. Players embody these legends without recognizing their source. Horror films about possession draw directly from Enoch's concept of disembodied spirits pursuing human hosts. When a motion picture displays a demon attempting to claim a body, it pursues the pathway laid out in Enoch's portrayal of the Nephilim's restless ghosts. Yet, Enoch's influence runs beyond simple borrowing of plots and characters. The volume influenced how we think about cosmic fairness itself. Its revelation of a cosmos where wrongdoers confront judgment, not simply in this existence but beyond, has become bedrock in Western understanding. Its message about concealed understanding carries through our narratives too. From Indiana Jones searching for the Ark to National Treasure's hunt for secret maps. Our narratives often turn on the concept that reality lies just beneath the surface, waiting for worthy sight. This too comes from traditions like Enoch, where heavenly mysteries were shared with selected seers. Perhaps most powerfully, Enoch gave us the concept of apocalypse as we comprehend it. Not simply a conclusion, but a disclosure of reality, a pulling backward of the curtain. Every dystopian narrative, every end-of-world film, every narrative where concealed systems are ultimately exposed, all owe something to how Enoch framed his revelations of ultimate days. The Forbidden Volume influenced even how we picture paradise and underworld. The circles of consequence, the positions of celestial beings, the throne chambers of the divine. These pictures that fill our artistic expression and literature took form in writings like Enoch before discovering their pathway into wider culture. This is the authentic capacity of ancient legends. They don't perish when religious authorities dismiss them. They simply transform form, flowing into fresh channels, feeding fresh fields. Enoch's revelations of cosmic structure and disruption, of entities caught separating realms, of mysteries concealed and disclosed, still influence the narratives we narrate around contemporary fires. What if Enoch had stayed? Let's experiment with time for an instant. Imagine a realm where the volume of Enoch was never prohibited, a realm where it sits separating Genesis and Exodus in every Bible. A realm where children learn about the Watchers alongside Noah and Moses. How would this realm differ from our own? In this alternate realm, the boundary separating celestial beings and humans blurs. Churches instruct that heavenly entities once traveled among us, acquired human wives, and shared divine mysteries. The transparent borders separating paradise and our world, so firm in our realm's main faiths, grow misty and thin. Sunday school lessons incorporate the narrative of 200 celestial beings who surrendered paradise for love. Preachers address Semjaza and Azazel alongside Gabriel and Michael. Children draw pictures of the Watchers, instructing early humans to produce swords and mirrors to interpret the celestial bodies and project spells. In university theology departments, scholars spend careers studying Enoch's detailed cosmology. His unusual calendar, with its 364 days and portal gates for the sun, transforms as widely recognized as the Genesis creation narrative. His 7 heavens emerge on classroom walls where our realm might display solar systems. This alternate realm's artistic expression appears different too. Renaissance painters don't simply display serene celestial beings carrying messages. They illustrate the Watcher's descent, the giant's rampage, Enoch's voyage through the crystal halls of paradise. Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel might display the divine, commanding the archangels to chain the rebels beneath the ground. The cosmos itself appears different to individuals in this realm. They mature, perceiving stars as sentient entities who can transgress and confront judgment. They learn that natural disasters might emerge from celestial beings bound beneath mountains, straining at their chains. The border separating legend and science stays fluid longer. Religious movements acquire different turns. Early Christian Gnostics who cherished Enoch's mystic revelations might not have been thrust to the edges of the faith. Their concentration on concealed understanding and cosmic voyages might have transformed central rather than suspect. Christianity might have maintained more of its mystical roots. Jewish mysticism would stand in a different illumination too. The Kabbalah, with its revelations of divine realms that mirror Enoch's heavens, would not appear like a later addition to Jewish understanding. Instead, it would emerge as a natural outgrowth of writings always at Judaism's center. The actual notion of canon would shift with Enoch incorporated. Despite its unusual assertions, additional writings might have discovered welcome too. The Gospel of Thomas, the Shepherd of Hermas, the Pistis Sophia, all might have remained in wider utilization. Sacred libraries would expand thicker with voices once silenced. Would faith be stronger in this realm or weaker? On one hand, Enoch's vivid cosmic drama might have maintained more individuals engaged with religious narratives. On the other, his unusual assertions might have made the whole tradition appear less trustworthy to contemporary minds. Perhaps both would be authentic for different individuals. Celestial beings would participate in larger functions in daily faith. If the Watchers could descend through incorrect decisions, then the celestial beings still serving in paradise might appear more like us, entities with free will who selected to remain authentic. Supplications might address them more directly, requesting wisdom from individuals who remained faithful when others descended. The concept of descended celestial beings instructing forbidden understanding would transform how cultures view learning itself. Would science confront more resistance perceived as touching on mysteries celestial beings were punished for sharing? Or would it gain religious blessing as the completion of what the Watchers commenced? Different faiths might select different pathways. Our contemporary legends would develop from different soil without the requirement to rediscover and reinvent Enoch's forbidden concepts. Would our vampire narratives, alien abduction narratives, and superhero sagas acquire different forms? The requirement to disguise ancient legends as fresh inventions might fade. Political movements would discover different, sacred supports. Enoch's transparent revelation of cosmic fairness, where the powerful confront divine consequence for harming the weak, might fuel movements for social transformation. His revelation of ultimate judgment, where kings and rulers are thrown down, could motivate individuals fighting oppression. Environmental awareness might pursue a different pathway too. Enoch portrays the ground itself crying outward to paradise because of human transgression. This personification of nature as an entity that suffers and addresses might have fostered deeper ecological thinking within faith traditions. The gap separating religious and magical thinking might never have expanded so wide. Enoch's celestial beings instruct astrology, herbcraft, and cosmic mysteries. Had these remained part of sacred writing, the split separating faith and supernatural arts that influenced European history might have acquired a gentler form. The actual shape of human hope might appear different. Enoch's detailed revelation of resurrection and renewal of a realm, cleansed and reconstructed, presents specific consolation. His named celestial beings, observing over natural forces, provide faces for cosmic capacities. His 7 heavens supply the afterlife, a map. All these make the unseen realm feel closer, more authentic. Of course, we cannot determine how minor alterations ripple through time. Perhaps in this imagined realm, someone would compose an essay requesting, "What if Enoch had been prohibited?" They might picture a realm much like our own and marvel at how different matters would be. The question carries significance because it reminds us how powerful decisions about sacred writings can be. The determination to incorporate or remove a solitary volume influenced how billions would picture the cosmos. It influenced artistic expression, literature, psychology, and politics in methods we're still tracing. In the conclusion, though Enoch was prohibited, it never genuinely departed. Like the Watchers themselves, it existed onward, at the edges of our realm, whispering its mysteries to individuals who would listen. Officially dismissed, it still influenced how we dream, how we fear, how we picture the spaces separating the celestial bodies. And now, as more individuals rediscover this unusual forbidden volume, its voyage persists. Once again, readers travel with Enoch through crystal halls of paradise. Once again, they hear the ground cry outward against human transgression. Once again, they witness celestial beings descend for love and confront divine fairness. The volume of Enoch reminds us that no reality perishes simply because authorities dismiss it. It only waits like a seed in arid ground for the appropriate season to develop again.